Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Macon-Bibb County Board of Commissioners meetings. Pre-commission agenda today. Today is August the 1st, and the time is shortly after 4 o'clock. We have a very busy agenda, so we're going to get started right away. I am able to recognize everyone today, including your when you hit your button, so we won't have the issue. If you want to be recognized, I'll be able to do that, and multiple people can do it at the same time. It lets me know. So we've got that on board this time, so we don't talk over each other. We do have a rather lengthy agenda that may take the entire 2 hours. We do need to make room for executive session. During the executive session, we have some light refreshments back there to hold you over until you can have supper with your families. So we're going to go ahead and begin, as we always do, is calling the meeting to order. And the first order of business is the approval of the minutes. The approval of the minutes is from the July 18th, 2023 meeting. I get a motion to approve. Motion by Commissioner Bronson. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Wilder. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Going to move on to item 3. These are several alcohol licenses, 3A through E. And we'll take those one by one, including one that we had on consent. And Commissioner Watkins, I'll get you in just a second, okay? I'm going to get through these licenses real quick. Okay. If you want to add something to the agenda, you can still do it at this time. Yeah, we're here for you in just a second. The new alcohol beverage licenses for the Shell Mart located at 6369 Thomaston Road. This is should be on your screen now. This store meets all the legal and proper authority to grant a license. The legal has reviewed it and recommends approval. So at this time, I entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Commissioner Wilder. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Wynn. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item B is the Old Muggy Brew Pub, which is a change of ownership located at 464 2nd Street, Macon, Georgia. This is a brew pub. Has malt, wine, consumed premises. All the zoning and legal proper paperwork has been filed. Legal recommends approval on this one as well. We get a motion to approve. Motion by Commissioner Wynn, second by Commissioner Jones. Any questions regarding this item? Hearing no questions, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item C is Serenity Entertainment Complex, doing business as Serenity's Entertainment Lounge located at 427 Poplar Street, Macon, Georgia. Likewise, all of these have met the legal requirements. All the paperwork has been filed. Legal recommends approval of this. Can we get a motion to approve? Got a motion by Commissioner Bronson. Can we get a second? Second by Commissioner Howell. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries and will be sent to consent agenda. Item D is Sitco Food Mart located at 1681 Rocky Creek Road. You have a picture of that location as well. They have likewise met all the legal requirements under law. Legal has reviewed all that, including all the zoning requirements and the fuel cells, and recommends approval. Can we get a motion to approve? A motion by Commissioner Howell, second by Commissioner Jones. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item E is a item that came before you before. At that time, we had some issues regarding whether or not that was a vice mark and whether they met certain quantities that we had requested there, and it was not recommended approval at that time. Since then, there has been a discussion, a re-inspection, and they meet all the legal and necessary requirements there. And we've had a quite lengthy consent agreement that you have attached to your documentations. Mr. Gerard is here today. I don't need to hear from you, Mr. Gerard, but he represented RASIC 2022, and he's worked out an agreement with Mr. Frank Howard with the attorney's office. So this time we recommend acceptance of this agreement and approval. Can we get a second? Second by Commissioner Howell. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Gerard, for being here tonight. Figured there's no need to have any comment if we're going to do what you want us to do. That's right. All right, we're going to move on. Commissioner Watkins, sir, now I'm with you.
Oh, appreciate it, sir. I want to make a motion to amend the agenda for further discussion around our playgrounds. I think last month we went on a tour of our playgrounds. Been pending and we ended up passing a resolution moving money up for the playgrounds at Frank Johnson and the playgrounds at Memorial. And I just want to take an opportunity to state that we would be doing inclusive playgrounds. So that's the motion. I got copies of it here. Y'all need further information.
Okay, Commissioner Watkins would like to add a motion for adding the playgrounds, for inclusive playgrounds that we discussed earlier. And do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Lucas. At this time, we'll call for a vote on whether we should add that. Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, what are we adding? Just a talk?
And I'm passing out the resolution. It's, it's further stating that of the $1.4 million that we spent, that we've allocated to improve the individual parks, that at least 300 will be spent on the playgrounds. And just to bring clarity that we aren't talking about a repair to the playgrounds, which are in need of repair. Like in some places, the slide needs fixing, or another type of thing needs fixing. This is a complete overhaul of the way that our playgrounds would look. And I don't know, pass around a picture book if somebody want an idea.
We have a motion and a second. This time we'll call for a vote. There's really no discussion on it until we've added it to the agenda or not. Commissioner Brunson, you don't need a copy?
No, I guess we hold off, trying to give everybody that chance to kind of review it real quick. They're still passing information around.
Okay. And this is the same thing we reviewed before, but we'll pass around.
Everybody's got this, right?
Just before this is pertinent to the agenda item, not the substance. Are we not waiting for a report from recreation, like from Robert? Is that, I don't think I've seen that.
We haven't received
Recommendations?
Right, we were waiting on a recommendation from Robert Walker with Parks and Recreation on each of the project and what he
Okay.
recommends for each department.
And we just haven't gotten that yet.
That's
And
correct.
that's coming though?
That's correct.
And I guess and my thoughts on that were providing them guidance that play from our highest level, us being the ultimate deciders, that this is something that we wanted to do or not do, as they're making that final recommendation for what our new park improvements would look like.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes, sir, that was my question. Also, where were the where'd you get the dollar amounts? They're derived from what? Were there bids put out, and this is what
So with the magazine article that I was just passing around, they are a state-sponsored contract, and if you look in like the bottom corner, just if we wanted to do exactly what's in the picture, that's what it would cost.
Okay.
Is how I based that. And there's a couple more different versions within that section too, but that's the sticker price, I guess, to speak. And the money's coming, of course, from the SPLOST that we've already allocated for this year.
Right. We typically have more than just a picture from a magazine, like a bid from
Correct.
from someone that
And
says,
we would need to direct Robert Walker and his staff that that's something we're interested in. In my talks with them currently, the plans seem to be headed towards, again, replacing and repairing and painting what we have. And like I say, this is asking for several levels more than that.
Remember, the motion before you is simply to add it to the agenda. You're not making a substantive decision, either way.
Okay. Commissioner Lucas?
Yeah, I just want to endorse what he's saying, the idea of adding this to the agenda, and I do hope that it's supported because we don't want to be stuck in the past as we have been over time, where we did not keep up with what was safe, the safest possible equipment. And we're talking about many of our youngest who utilize parks and recreation. And it used to be getting rid of lead in, old equipment and stuff, and getting rid of stuff that would cause cuts on little ones in that playground equipment, all of that. So I think rather than having our facilities accessible in one place, we need to be doing it overall. And so I thank you for continuing to discuss this, and I think we ought to move into the future with the safest possible and most usable equipment that we can for all of our children, especially the handicapped.
Commissioner Wynn?
The agenda, and we'll have a discussion if it gets on the agenda. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we don't need to be pre-discussing, I guess.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
We had a motion and a second, so we'll call for a vote or whether we're going to add it to the agenda or not. Keep in mind, this is for two, Gore Memorial and Frank Johnson, which would allocate those funds to those particular areas despite what other projects that those two commissioners would like to do in there. This is for Frank Johnson and Memorial Park Recreation, so it would take away money from funds that you've got set aside for what needs to be done at that park. That's right. So at this time, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. A roll call vote. We'll start with Commissioner Tillman. How do you vote? Yes. Mr. Watkins, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Howell, how do you vote? Commissioner Wilder, how do you vote? Commissioner Procon Clark, how do you vote? Yes. Commissioner Jones, how do you vote? Yes. Commissioner Lucas, how do you vote? Mr. Bronson, how do you vote? Ms. Nguyen, how do you vote? All right, we've added this to the agenda. Now we'll have a discussion. First of all, this is $25,000 for two of our facilities. And Commissioner, I'm sorry, we'll hear from our attorney, Mr. Groover.
Can I have common consent to move forward with the substantive discussion without a motion in a second? Is that okay? Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, I want to hear from Robert Walker. That's my biggest concern still. I agree with everything that Commissioner Lucas said, and really with the substance, my biggest concern is that we are pulling much needed money away from the Frank Johnson Recreation Center. That was my concern before, and it still is. And I don't think I have enough facts without understanding what the future plans for Robert Walker's, for the facilities and the ADA compliance and the needs assessment that they've already done. I definitely think this merits conversation, but I don't know. I'm most certainly not for moving money away from planned facilities upgrades at Frank Johnson if it's not in the plan from Robert Walker. That's my biggest concern. And but I do think it merits discussion.
If I may?
Sure.
Just so we're clear, and I think you understand, but just for clarity, that this is not, it's using money allocated for Frank Johnson Center at Frank Johnson Center. It's not taking money from the Frank Johnson Center and moving it to someplace else in the world. I guess what I'm asking, that within whatever plans that Recreation has on improving the Frank Johnson Center, that serious upgrades are made more than, and hopefully me and Mr. Walker are on the same page, but plans more than what the playground would have been. So it may be taking away from a paint job or a new room or something like that, or a tennis court, but it would still be within the Frank Johnson and the Memorial Gym's allocated budgets. And I think at some point we're going to have to decide, like we see that all the time. There may be $10 million worth of improvements that need to be made at Frank Johnson. We only have a certain amount to choose. So which features are we going to go with? And like I said, for this right here, and And then, you know, the lines have changed a lot over the years, but since 2008, we've been working on Frank Johnson Center. And it's, you know, going from where it was in the 70s and 80s, we've done a lot. When I look at it, the outdoor exterior facilities are kind of the next phase I would anticipate coming from Mr. Walker. And I'm all in favor, again, if what the body wants to do is table and have the director come in here and explain a little bit better, I'm all in favor and I'm not opposed to that in any type of way. But I would like for us to continue to have the conversation.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, just what you just said, Commissioner, that we probably need to table it because I know that you said the money's still staying in that park, but it probably was already earmarked for something else that we're now going to push to the side and change. But I want to see us discuss it. I want Robert Walker to come talk to us and let us tell us what he needs for these parks and how this money needs to be spent. So I move to table this right now.
Got a motion to table, got a second by Commissioner Lucas. All those in favor of tabling this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is tabled.
Don't dislike the idea, just want to hear from.
You got something else, Commissioner Watkins? Yes, sir. Okay. I'm with you, sir.
Just one more, and thank you for you guys' indulgence. One more item on to discuss today. I don't know about you guys, but in my area and several areas, we're still dealing with gun violence and coming up with solutions and best practices around it and how to get us out of this pandemic of gun violence is something I spend a lot of time thinking about. And of course, the mayor and all of you spent a lot of time, and we spent a lot of money trying to figure out best practices. I think we started up the MVP program, a little more than a year ago. And this was one of the programs, the Cure Violence Interruption Program happening in Pleasant Hill. We funded them through this for I think about $800,000 the first time, which again was a lot of money. They're coming towards the end of that grant period that year, and we need to stop and assess whether or not they've done a good job and if they're worthy of being renewed. And also I would like for us to talk about if this interruption stuff is showing success, what does it look like for us to expand this program, these types of programs? Again, we start pilot programs all the time, but if something is showing success, the idea of a pilot should be to move it along and see it expand and help out more people. So I'd like for us to take some time and think about those questions. What I'm trying to do here is allocate funds for an anticipated expansion, moving a violence interrupter service into the hospital. So when gun violence or trauma occurs, that there's a case manager on site at the hospital, emergency room to begin trying to intervene on that situation and provide care and services to the families and those affected on site. Also showing to other communities like this. These folks are housed physically in the Pleasant Hill community, and most of their caseload comes from things that happen within that census tract. So expanding out to 2 more at-need census tracts. And I'd love to discuss where do we think the most gun violence or the most needs happening. For me, I think on this page I outlined the Unionville community and the Houston Avenue community. And that was just based on my assessment of gun data. I would appreciate, like I say, anybody else's assessments or any other feedback on that type of stuff. But that's the proposal, so I make that motion for us to put on the agenda for discussion.
Commissioner Watkins made a proposal to add this to the agenda, and Commissioner Tillman has seconded that, adding it to the agenda. Someone has specific comments relating to adding this to the agenda? If not, we'll call for a vote on whether or not to add it to the agenda. Okay. Commissioner Jones?
Again, Commissioner, I think I'm open to the idea. I just don't have enough information from the people who've been running the programs. I'd like to have a report from all of those
100%.
people.
Yes, sir.
To give us an update on where we stand. And then I'd certainly be open to, I think we're getting the cart in front of the horse again, so.
And I'm very sensitive to that as well. And same thing, part of this is a challenge for me to get stuff scheduled and get on the agenda because, I don't know, I have some type of communications issue with the mayor that we're working on. But so I'm more than open if the body is of mind to put it on the agenda now and table it to give folks an opportunity to schedule and come and speak some more. Because I do really want to hear more about what's happening overall with our MVP program and the like. So, yep.
Perhaps your motion might be to bring these people in and have a report, and then we'd have that scheduled and then go to the next step.
Yeah, I don't want to get ahead of the horse, but let me just say this, that the people that are actually including on this project getting the money, I've personally communicated with and told them that we will be reevaluating this in January and make a decision in April, and they were agreeable to that, One World Link. I've got the emails to show it, and basically that gives our MVP team, our sheriff, our community foundation, as well as another partner to review all the data to make a decision and compare that with the other items we have going on. They still have $200,000 they haven't built out. And there's still a contingency fund built into that program that's not going to allow it to lapse before we make a decision. So that is why I believe this is premature and there's no need to discuss it today. And we'll proceed like we had discussed with the company who submitted this
If I may,
in
sir.
January.
If I may, sir, I think you're speaking on something, what would be, I guess, the renewal of the Pleasant Hill grant. This is speaking on whether or not we want to expand and include new locations, new program types within that same wheelhouse.
This is the same thing. Does this particular program, I think you sent me something, does this include $800,000 for Atron NAVSA?
Yes, that is that. This is that, but not Pleasant Hill. As you stated, they're not, although their renewal is getting close from the same conversation you saw, it's not a dire conversation on whether or not to renew today or tomorrow Pleasant Hill. But I would like to have a conversation on whether or not the intervention model is working from our space and whether or not Unionville, Navicent, Houston Avenue should see something like this. And respectfully, I know, I think 6 months ago we did a update on MVP. A lot has happened in 6 months as it centers around crime. And I don't know, I don't have a full aspect of if crime's lower in areas that I've mentioned here, or if it's higher, or if it's stagnant. And again, some conversations around that would be helpful. And I know you say January, but to me that's like, could be 20 more murders in between there. And I just would like to, and these things take a while to set up if it's something that we're going to do. So sooner rather than later would help me with information.
I've told you that I spoke with him. It was January that we told him we would evaluate this and we would make a recommendation in April whether or not, after looking at this year end, whether or not it's successful to do. And that's what I had intended to do, but of course the commission didn't do what they want to do. So we have a motion and a second. Someone wants to talk specifically about adding this to the agenda, Commissioner Tillman? It does. It's your time to speak now.
No, I was just gonna say, I'm interested, I wish we would support this, because I'm interested in hearing from these guys, because, you know, many of us can remember back in 2010, when it was 14 murders, and we took $30,000. You were there, Commissioner Lucas was there, Sheriff was there. We took $30,000 over an 8-week period, and we changed a lot of folks. And so some of these folks have gotten all this money. Y'all hear y'all talking about 800,000 and so forth. I want to see some and hear about some real results. You know, we had them on these panels with the sheriff office, the U.S. attorneys, and all of that. That happened in, you go back and do the research, in 2010, we was talking about 14 murders, and we was talking about that was a lot. In the last year or so, we talking about 70 murders, and we need to see some results. And we was doing that for the entire community, not just Unionville, Pleasant Hill, or Bloomfield. And so, you know, I'm interested in hearing and seeing some real results, because I can come here and I listen to people put all this stuff on paper, but and I just been quiet watching them. you know, and so, I wanna hear about some real results. So I would say let's support it, cause I wanna hear the results, cause we putting out a lot of money and, you know, folks wanna see some results, some real results.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
Yeah, I'm kind of apt to agree that we need to have a conversation about this big time. I went to visit the Cure Violence Prevention site in Pleasant Hill last week, and I think what I learned there is stuff that this body should know for sure. I am the fact that we're not near the lapsing of the program, that there's extra money to expand. I would like for them to be able to have time to put together their full report so we can understand the success or where they need to be bolstered, where they need to, if we're going to expand into Atrium or Unionville, we need to know how it didn't work. Did they not have enough resources? Did they have too much, sectioned off for one thing? I don't know, just whatever their kind of final grant report is. I'd be really interested in hearing that presentation. I don't. And I think that's the only way I can judge the success of the success and the worthiness of expanding it. I think probably I think it's an incredibly worthy program. But I would like, if we're on schedule and funded to get that report in January, I think it's important for the life of the program to be realized, the whole life of it, and then understand what happens at the end of that grant. And that's so. I mean, I'm happy to add it to the agenda, but I think I would support tabling it so where we can have something to consider on the table once we receive that information, when that time is appropriate.
Mr. Tillman.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem, the success is when you have shooters and gang members start denouncing the violence. And I haven't seen that from any of these folks. That's when you do it. When we put them on radio, TV, and they come here and they sit on the panel and say, I'm done with this. Let's stop the shooting and killing and so forth. We haven't seen that. So somebody could come in here and divvy up paperwork and all of that, and we've seen enough of that. So I'm gonna start looking at the real results. And because I got every video, I could come back in here and I could put it on and show y'all all the videos from Village Green, to Pleasant Hill, to Unionville, or the real results of what was happening with $30,000 back in 2010. And a lot of folks got over 2 million. And so, and a lot of these folks scared to go in the neighborhood. They say, oh, we're in the neighborhood, so where are the shooters that's in the jail that the sheriff has let out, or they got a bond that's saying, I denounce gun violence and shootings? That's the results we don't see that we're gonna be looking for. That's what I'm gonna be looking for anyway.
Commissioner Howell, keep in mind, we're still on whether or not this is added to the agenda. And whether it's added and tabled or whether it's not added is the same exact thing. So it takes the same amount of votes to get it back on the agenda later on. So we're talking a lot about nothing as far as the procedural part of it. Commissioner Howell?
I agree. We're probably talking a lot about nothing, but I want my chance.
Yes, sir. It's your chance to talk about nothing.
I agree with Commissioner Tillman on this. I think we need to hear real results, especially before we start talking about spending 1.2 or 1.4 million more dollars until we make sure it's going to work. So that's just my comment.
Yeah. All right. If you have a motion and a second, Commissioner Wilder, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. So,
Mr. Wilder, I'm with you.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to let Mr. Tillman down. I want to let you know that I'm with you on this. I think we need to know a whole lot more other than discuss what ifs tonight. We need to hear from who you're talking about. I'd love to see them people come here and denounce that. I'm all for that. But I don't see what we're going to accomplish tonight other than tabling this thing.
Let me, Attorney Groover.
Not to interrupt this discussion, but remember, we're only, and we've let it go for a while, but we need to vote on the actual motion to table, and then the motion to add to the agenda, and then if it gets on, we can have plenty more discussion. Well, we don't need, let's just do it by, does anybody object to that? Let's move on with a vote.
Okay, we have a motion and second to add it to the agenda to discuss. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Sounds like a 5, right? It's 5-3 vote. It's a 5 vote. I heard Seth and that tipped the scale. So we will, it's added to the agenda now. Is there a motion to table? A motion by Commissioner Lucas, second by Commissioner Jones. That's a non-debatable motion. All those in favor of tabling this motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is now tabled. We're not talking about this anymore. Anything else, Commissioner Watkins? Yeah.
And anything I can do there, please. I mean, I'd love to be a part of that. Mr. Conklin.
If you don't mind, I think item 4 is going to be a little lengthy conversation. I know the sheriff is here and he may have some things to do, but if you wouldn't mind, I'd move on to 7A to go ahead and handle the sheriff's appearance tonight, if that's okay with commissioners. So item 7A is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of the American Rescue Plan Act Public Safety and Community Violence Reduction Grant from the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget in the amount of $1,621,809.20. It says match required, but I'm not sure about that. Awarded to the Macon-Bibb County Sheriff's Department. This has not come out of ARP that was assigned to the counties. This is something that the sheriff applied for, and this is for the flock of cameras. Is that correct, Sheriff? That he's been talking about, and this time we want to be able to accept those funds so he can get busy installing those cameras. So this time I entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Commissioner Wynn, second by Commissioner Howell over here. Any discussion regarding the cameras or this money? Commissioner Bronson?
Hey, so of the cameras, congratulations, by the way, Sheriff. Thank you for all that you're doing. In regards to speed cameras, I know part of that discussion,
This
if you
is
remember.
not speed cameras.
Speed cameras.
This is the tag readers from the sheriff and the grant that he applied for.
On the tags.
Okay.
Yeah, Sheriff, would you mind giving us an overview of the cameras? That's what I was really trying to say. I just terrible. Don't mind me.
There's something else, there's an item
I got it.
Say what?
Sheriff, thank you for coming tonight. If you don't mind coming up to the lecture, just to give them a little information that we've heard about for the last year about these FLACA cameras and how great they are and how everybody's using them and how we finally got some without paying for them.
Thank you. I wonder why I couldn't hear myself. All right, thank you all for accepting this money. We're gonna spend it. And so we've heard a lot about cameras in the last couple of years, where they be the school zone cameras that Mayor Miller and the commission, you all, and all of us have worked together to deploy. Then we also have the other cameras, the monitoring cameras. I hate to say surveillance cameras, but monitoring cameras where we can see things that are happening that we've placed all over the community. Well, the next step are these Flock. Flock is the company, you might say. They're like you'd say Chevrolet. The cameras are license plate readers, LPRs. You'll hear that term used a lot, LPRs. And they basically, as cars go by, they check the tag, they look at the car, they take a picture of every vehicle that goes by. And if we have a situation to where that, say we had a burglary in a particular neighborhood or a particular area, we can check those flock cameras for vehicles that went through. We can run those tags. We can see who those vehicles belong for. If we're looking for a particular type of vehicle, say a red Ford Explorer, then we put that into the system and it'll tell us every red Ford Explorer that has come through any of the flock cameras in our area. So that really helps us to be able to identify vehicles. Also, we talk about identifying criminals, but supposing your loved one who may have dementia or have some diminished capabilities and they are prone to wander and they drive and we have a missing person like that, or we have a child abduction, and then we can put that information into these cameras, and that helps us to be able to locate them. Many of you may remember a couple of months ago, there was a shooting incident, a very serious shooting incident in Atlanta, in Midtown Atlanta, where an individual went into a doctor's office and committed a serious shooting. Those flock cameras were instrumental in being able to track that person and bring that person in. So we're looking forward to these. Counties around us, Monroe County, Jones County, Houston County, Warner Robins already have these cameras in place or are deploying more of them. So we're just going to join that network. And if you have these cameras, you have access to these cameras from anybody else that has them. So if we have a person who's committing crimes in Bibb and they go down to Houston, then we can follow that vehicle down to wherever they might go that has these particular cameras. So we're very excited about that. It adds to our resources of digital and technological tools to follow crime. And I know you were talking about earlier, you were talking about Nathan earlier about the things, and we have some statistics we'd be happy to show you and help with that at any time the commission wants to follow up on that particular matter. But we're very excited about this, and we thank you, and we'll be getting with the state folks to get these deployed very quickly.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any questions regarding this particular item for the Sheriff?
I have.
Mr. Lucas, I'm with you.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. I wanted to say how pleased we are to be getting these sizable amounts of money, and I know that it benefits your department, and you've got a lot going on. And so this helps and adds to it. But I do want to mention to everyone that all of this money is our tax money that's coming back to us in the local communities to benefit the community. And this one happens to be in the area of community violence reduction. And even though it's coming from the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget, it originated as an American Rescue Plan Act Public Safety and Community Violence Reduction Grant, which is the federal Biden administration where this originated. So we need to not only thank the governor's office for designating monies to go to local governments, but the origin is the Biden administration utilizing our money and sending it back to us for good purposes like this.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. Commissioner Watkins, you have a question, sir?
And I think you probably stated it, I'm curious, are they stationary cameras or are they the ones that go in the back of the police cars?
These particular ones are stationary. They're very nondescript. If you don't know what you're looking for, you wouldn't even really know that they were there. But these will be positioned in places all throughout our community. We're looking at the placement now based on crime analysis, based on traffic patterns, all of those things. So these will be placed stationary. Now, we still have cameras, license plate readers that are attached to a number of our patrol cars, and we'll be getting more of those. Those are mobile, and those are instantaneous. If it's constantly reading the tags of vehicles as it passes, and if it comes across a vehicle that is stolen or the registered owner of the vehicle has warrants or anything like that, it sends that deputy a notification right then to where that they can take some action as they're moving down the road. So it sort of augments what we already have, but these are stationary.
And I'm right to assume you can't get a ticket, or somebody could follow you and because you've done something, but it's not a situation where you get a ticket in the mail for going too fast or doing something like that. Okay.
That's right. No, these citations these cameras are in no way tied to any type of citation. They are for us to be able to identify vehicles that we may be looking for various purposes. As I said, criminal activity or missing people or that sort of thing. So no, these are not any kind of speed cameras or any type of citations for these.
I'm sure you said it again. I'm sorry. How many cameras are there?
when it's all said and done with there are some entities that already have some flock cameras, some private entities that already have it. So we're gonna have, when we're all finished, probably between 130 to 150 all out, all over the community. So, it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a game
A lot of
changer.
intersections.
It's gonna be nice.
A lot of intersections. Commissioner Bronson?
Hey, so just to make sure, clarification here. So a while back, we discussed the shot spotter. And part of that discussion in Shot Spotter, I was kind of mentioning the fact that they utilize that in DC, and it's kind of a trifold type deal, right? Where you have shots go out, cameras in that particular area automatically chime in to that particular location. Will this be kind of the similar deal that we're trying to get done? Because if so, this is great.
It's working towards that. Right now, this is not the way that we can have some license plate reader cameras tied directly to the shot spotter sensors so that they go straight to wherever the sound of the gunfire is. We're working towards that eventuality. These will be stationary placements in places, but with the number that we have and the coverage that we're going to have, when a shot spotter notification goes off, there will be a flock camera somewhere in that vicinity that will be able to see what vehicles that may have been in that area. Okay. So it will overlap with where we have the shot spotter system currently to have that coverage of the license plate reader cameras through the flock system to be able, if we had a gunshot, that we could go back and look and see what vehicles went through there and what vehicles were in that area, and then pin it down that way.
Is there a way, I know working with Ms. Judy Gordon with Neighborhood Watch Association, is there a way for a Neighborhood Watch Association to say, hey, we would like to have, additional cameras in this particular location? Is there a way for us to do that if that's a part of the discussion?
That is, and we've already talked to some neighborhood groups about that. Some of the neighborhood groups are driving where we're going to place these cameras in different neighborhoods and different parts of the community. So we use neighborhood resident input, crime statistics, traffic patterns, all of those types of data to determine exactly where these would go. Now, there are some neighborhoods who have asked about placing these cameras, and as I said earlier, there are some neighborhoods that already have the flock camera systems in place. So, but that may be a situation to where we may have to come see y'all about some money to pay for it, or either the neighborhoods themselves may want to come together and contract with flock to have those cameras placed. But once they're placed, then they become part of the system to which we have access to that.
Thank you, Commissioner Bronson. Thank you, Sheriff, for that information. I know that we've had some auto break-ins in certain areas. I know this would probably would have already solved most of those cases as well. So we certainly appreciate you being here, and whoever gave the money, including ourselves, because we're the ones that paid the money to give it to DC, to give it to the governor, to give it back to us. So thank everybody here that worked hard to pay for this public safety we're about to receive. So I feel like I'm saying a blessing. So this time we do have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda tonight. Thank you for being here tonight, Sheriff.
Thank y'all.
All right, we're going to move on to item 4. And I put my glasses on because I'm going to be presenting this. Our attorney McNeil is in D.C. and could not be here tonight. And I'll have Attorney Groover as well as Attorney Howard to give explanation on this as well. This is additions and changes to the Macon-Bibb County Code. Specifically, we're looking at the ordinance to amend various provisions of Chapter 4 of the Macon-Bibb County Code of Ordinances for the purpose of narrowing the use of special event alcohol licenses and for all other lawful purposes. I'll go ahead before we do a motion in a second and give you the information on what the changes, the additions are as clear as I can. And I'd ask that you would hold your questions until I get through given all these different changes that we have. First of all, one of the reasons that this particular item is on the agenda tonight is because we've had several concerns all across Macon-Bibb County, but in particular in the downtown location from downtown business owners. And then we have had several acts of violence, I would say, committed around particular special events. At the same time, we have very little leverage over these in our current code. For example, there's no security, there's no cameras, there's no leverage on the county to revoke any alcohol privileges for someone who doesn't have an alcohol privilege. So we've been getting a lot of requests. And we've also noticed on our calendar the last couple of times is people are abusing the use of special events and gives an unfair advantage to I hate to say legitimate business, but a business who has done all the steps like a background check, fingerprinting, pay the appropriate funds, have the cameras, have people trained to deal with people who may get overserved alcohol, and are really just running the business in the bar business without doing anything that a person would normally have to do. So this is why it got brought to our attention. So here are some of the changes we think will make our community safer, will protect our businesses, particularly the businesses that do everything according to the law in the right way, and won't prohibit or hinder a legitimate business from operating in Macon-Bibb County. So I'm going to go through some of those items. The first item is the name and caterer of the alcoholic beverage caterer's license will need to be submitted. That license will need to happen and be filed within 30 days in advance of the event. 30 days is a sufficient time to walk the process through, but if you're having a special event, most people plan that out further down the road than 30 days. The second change will be to make sure that they file a list of the alcohol transport using the state form. There's a state form that they give out. This list in particular lists what items they will be transporting to a particular location, because this is off premises, and the specific amounts, and there's a state form on that. They're already supposed to be submitting these forms at the venue, but including the reference in this section of the code helps to clarify that. Special event applicants must now show zoning compliance for the venue as part of the permit application. Should be a very simple process because you're not able to sell alcohol next to certain places like schools or non-commercial businesses where you have functions at. So they ought to be able to serve that this commercial business is capable of having an event like that there. Every special event under this new change is required to have a named host, which is a person or organization not affiliated with the caterer or venue, who is responsible for the operations of the event. This enables us to know who is actually hosting this event, so it's not a sham event or a made-up event. It also requires code enforcement to sign off on the merits of special event permits applications before they can be submitted to the tax commissioner. Right now, the tax commissioner is having to do all this. Doesn't necessarily have all the tools and capabilities of doing that, and goes to a lot of trouble to award these things without knowing the specific zoning requirements and the laws that we have on board now as far as enforcement. Also, code enforcement is because code enforcement is going to be the person that's responsible for, and they have been responsible for, making sure that we have the cameras at the proper type of camera that we have placed at the proper locations for point of sales, and also getting rid of illegal vendors that are not licensed to do business on the side of the sidewalk. Because they're not paying any monies to complete the application, they would simply complete the application and drop it off at the code enforcement officer, and they'll have time to review that application to make a decision. Once the code enforcement officer signs off on that, if they meet the legal qualifications, it will be forwarded at that time to the tax commissioner, who can issue the special events permit. Every day of the event must be its own application. Too many times we have people think that they can book the special event for a whole week. Now, some of you may have special events the whole week, but most of the times my wedding only lasts one day. A graduation event or, a 100-year anniversary typically are one-night events. But the purpose of this is for safety. All special events have to stop selling alcohol at 11:30 and close the event down completely by midnight. Some people may have heartburn with that. But the way to get around this is to simply get an alcohol license, and you can stay open till 2 o'clock in the morning. But most of the times, these special events have people hanging out late at night, continuing to drink, and come to the party so late that there's issues that ensue, and shootings happen and other things happen. So the special events at these locations would be 11:30 and closed by 12. Minimal fine of $500 plus a loss of alcohol license for violating these rules. There's no sense of having any rules that tell people they can't do something if there's not some consequences that they end up violating those rules. So that is contained in here. The next thing is it sets out the general rule that special events cannot just use to mimic ordinary operations. I know it's hard for some of you to believe, but we have applications now where one business is catering to another business, some of which they own, and they're conducting the normal business as they would every day, taking your order when you come in to eat, when you drink. There's no special event about it. It's just a way to get around the loophole. We already have a process involved now called a temporary permit that they can have and not have to use a special event permit. The other thing, it increases the price for the event from $50 to $250. That is a small fee to pay for the thousands of dollars that people make selling alcohol. And again, all you have to do is go do your background check and fill out the paperwork to get an alcohol license, and you won't have to worry about any of these events. So that's in there. In special circumstances like we do on other things, fees can be waived for other requirements for good cause on special events, and the nonprofit charities are half price. Tax Commissioner wanted to add an email notice as an option for tax commissioner to let them know in the event that an alcohol license is not approved. And also for denials, the denials after the Office of Code Enforcement will come to the mayor's office to complete the process. Those are the changes that we're proposing for the special events license. Again, the easiest way to conduct business for any of these events is to simply go through the process. And the process is laid out very clearly. It's easy to do if you have, if you're in the proper location and you have the proper background. But at the same time, it puts us at a disadvantage to be able to enforce the laws that we have on our books when we don't know typically where the alcohol is coming from, who's selling it, and we can't require them to have cameras there, or they get around the security feature as well. So for all those reasons there, we are asking for the special events to be changed for the reasons that I mentioned before. And at this time, I entertain a motion for approval. Yes, we have a motion for approval first. Commissioner Jones, we have a second. Commissioner Wilder, now we'll answer some questions. Commissioner Bronson. Commissioner Bronson has light on for the first time I started talking, so.
So this is a vote to approve the ordinance change or to?
To approve the ordinance change, yes, sir.
Wow, okay. So I was just trying to figure out, right, I was hoping that we could have had a little more dialogue to that piece of it. That's a lot that you gave us to digest. And I know other commissioners kind of feel the same when we get hit with, here goes a handout, vote on it today situation. This is kind of a similar deal, right? So when you start talking about business owners and so forth, especially in the downtown area or whatever it may be, you gave me a whole list of things that need to be done. And I'm not even a business owner, and I would be scratching my head like I'm not doing business with Macon. So my hope is that while we may have just voted so quickly on this, that we could have at least had the opportunity to discuss
We
it.
haven't voted quickly on anything. All we have is a motion to second.
Awesome sauce.
This is the same thing we were asking us to do earlier, add something to the agenda to discuss it.
Tracking. Have we spoke with it? Well, I guess my first question would be, what brought this on? Out of curiosity, this is a very unique
3
change.
years of downtown complaints that haven't been addressed, and these have been the complaints. There's been multiple he said, she said, community meetings at downtown clubs and the sheriff's department, and these are the complaints. The business owners who have licenses are wondering why they have to jump through all the proper channels to earn a dollar and to do things the right way and to be able to pass a background check, to get their fingerprints done, to have proper zoning, to not bounce checks, to know who's serving you the drink when you go in there if you get overserved. These are legitimate concerns. At the same time, you have a right, when we have some of these issues that we've had, there hasn't been any cameras there because they're not required to have cameras because they're not a bar and don't have an alcohol license. So those are the reasons. I don't see anything unreasonable about this. It's one thing that you're in their business, simply go fill out the form, get your permit, and you're good to go to 2 o'clock in the morning as long as you want to, obey the rules. So that's really what brought it on. It's not a surprise. We talked about this multiple times. It seems like every time I go out of town, they call it here in downtown and they talk about, we got issues of crime down here, and some of the issues are that we have these illegal people operating businesses and crime happens. So that this is what the result of that.
And understood on that, I share part of downtown with Commissioner Watkins. So attending some of these events and a lot of things that we need to be addressing, i.e. more additional police officers and so forth in this deal for keeping the downtown safe, really trying to work to keep all of Macon safe as much as possible. In regards to this deal with the businesses, I would honestly strongly recommend we get the business owners in and kind of have a discussion with them on this piece of it, just to make sure this is exactly what needs to happen. Instead of, I'm all for the changes, do not get me wrong. I'm all about that, right? But I would much rather us table it, talk with the business owners and find out exactly what needs to happen in this case. Because I don't want to have a situation where we block out business owners that are downtown or those that want to come into Macon and do business. I just want to make sure that I voice that piece of it as a representative for the downtown area.
I understand, but they elected you to make these decisions, and it's not like we give them a direct vote to make the decisions.
This is not me making the decision. This is a ordinance change that
No, you
my
get to vote it
decision,
up or down.
right? But my decision right now is asking that we either table this deal and have a full-fledged discussion as the elected official for downtown. That's what I'm asking.
We're having a full-fledged discussion right now, but if that's your motion to table, we'll see if we got a second.
I motion that we table this until we get further. Well, I mean, hey, we know what? We'll vote against it.
We got a motion, second. Table, is there a second? There's no second.
I pull my motion to table. I yield my time to Commissioner Tillman.
Well, I'll decide
if I can
who's
do
gonna
that,
talk next.
I want to make sure we.
Thank you.
I withdraw my motion to table.
Okay. And next on my list to speak is Commissioner Tillman.
Thank you. First of all, number one thing is we shouldn't be sitting up here trying to do the sheriff's job, his job. And we are in discussion because we're in the committee of the whole. I'm going to come from the point of entrepreneurship and special events and promoters. Number one, there are venues all over Macon outside of downtown. If we're trying to target downtown, which the commissioner is alluding to, the mayor didn't say that. But if we are, then you've got the BID downtown, you got the sheriff department that ought to be patrolling. The average persons cannot afford a $5,000 business license or a liquor license. That's why it's called a special event permitting. And promoters and special events do not normally own brick and mortar businesses. I understand the intent. I just don't think this is a good piece of legislation that we should be deciding on now. You're talking about 30 days in advance of a venue that people would have to apply. Well, a lot of times, and I'll give you an example. I'll just use Serenity as an example, was doing their 1-year anniversary at a location that wasn't ready or prepared, and they had to change the venue within 30 days. That's one example. A lot of times, things come up as a last-minute resort, and people have to change the venue. So requiring it to be 30 days, that just shouldn't happen. Macon-Bibb and Planning and Zoning decided that we wanted entrepreneurs and people on our sidewalks to do business because we were trying to keep them from robbing and stealing. And so we need to, if it's no longer in existence, everywhere I go, I tell people you're welcome to do business on our sidewalks because that was an ordinance that we passed that may need to be revised. We passed it even at Planning and Zoning when I was on there, that we was charging as little as $150 for seasonal, because we wanted people to sell their Christmas trees, their peaches and watermelons on the sidewalks, and we wanted to make it easier for those particular venues. We all have traveled Atlanta, New York, and some of these other places where businesses are welcome to do those type of things. 11:30 p.m., I mean, really? Have we forgotten how young some of us still are and that we were once? They say that somebody got to put up a drink before 11:30. I mean, you know, we go out of town, the party sometimes don't start at 11:30.
We go to a bar with a license, though, that has alcohol
listen,
permit.
Here's the deal. Bars should have licenses. Bars should have their stuff in order. Code enforcement should double check that. We're talking about special events, primarily promoters. We got stuff from Bloomfield to Vineville to South Bibb that never come up because there's usually not issues. Hotels have special events. I have special events. And so I just cannot imagine. And I used to tell people, I wanted to add one thing. And I used to always come back to Macon and say, we should charge promoters to have a license. Because most of the time, people coming in here, they don't have a license. When I go out of town, when I was at Fort Stewart, I never forget the guy made me call somebody, had to fax my business license. Over in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, I just thought they were so country. They charge you $80 for a license. Down in Panama City, you got to pay for a license to do business. So there are other ways that we could do this. We can require promoters and special events to carry those particular promoters' licenses and so forth. And you don't have to be regulated through P&Z because that's something that they regulate. And we don't have to necessarily table this because we're having the discussion now because we are the committee of the whole. You know, I don't have to keep beating the drums about why we're not in committee of the whole. We are here now. I understand the intent. When things like this come up, I'm not just having this conversation. Me and the mayor have had a little bit of discussion, and he knows my sentiments. And so I just want to make it public to you guys that, you know, a couple of years before the mayor came, you know, in past tense, every event that would come to the city auditorium, Centralplex, the city council was privy. There's a contract. It was privy 40 tickets. That used to be in the contract. For whatever reason, 4 or 5 years ago, former Mayor Rickert says, oh, we don't need no more tickets. We don't need the commission or the city council. He said the commission don't need any tickets and what have you. I went and had a conversation with him. And I said, sir, because you have reached an age that you're not going out and want to enjoy yourself. We have constituents, family, and friends that we want to continue to enjoy ourselves. So that's what I would say to all of y'all. I don't drink. I'm a social drinker. But now when I say social drinker, that means if I go out and somebody offers me a drink, I just do it just to socialize. But I understand that people want to socialize. And we know that convenience stores, if they can't have alcohol or spirits, they're going to shut down. Same thing with clubs and bar owners and so forth. So guys, we have worked so hard. We have come so far. When I go down Macon, I still cannot believe years ago when it was just the OS Club and Cafe La Ritz and a few others, it was dead downtown. Man, it's like amazing when I ride downtown on the weekend and see all these folks. I'll be like, where did they come from? And so we don't want to go backwards. We want to go forward. But I do understand the intent that we got to get those bad people that's doing bad things, but we cannot police and put the sheriff in a situation where we're basically clashing with them. Commissioners are getting the calls. about the police standing out there, you know, being overzealous in their position of authority, but yet we want them downtown, you know? So I'm just saying, we gotta compromise on some of this, and we gotta have the input, because I don't think there's that many folks out there doing special events. I know a few promoters. I could name 5, you know, one just had an event this past week, but it's not many that I know that's doing bad things. But there are a lot of promoters that this is gonna hurt. It's really gonna hurt, and it's probably gonna put a lot of people out of business. That's just my thoughts, in my opinion. So, and I appreciate it. Appreciate you holding your table, because a lot of times we can table something, but give somebody else a chance to just have a conversation about it. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Commissioner Jones?
I agree, Commissioner. We should all have a chance to speak. To me, this is a public safety issue. Above all else, in my view, an elected official, we're to provide public safety. That's our main charge. I think we've got some chaos going on, reports that I hear about in our oath, the oath that we all swore to upheld, said we're going to do what's in the best interest of the entire county, whether we represent that portion of the county or not. So I try to always keep that in mind. I think all of these things are needed. I think we've got chaos. We've got people abusing the system big time. The people who spend all these monies for licenses for beer and wine and alcohol and their business license have paid their dues. Prior to my real estate career, I was in the wholesale beer business. The Georgia Department of Revenue rules that their department, the state, very strictly. They have very strict guidelines and rules. Our ordinances currently are a mess, to be honest. They're just a mess. There's no, it's a mess. There's no consequences for certain things. People are able to abuse the rules, the laws that are in place, and it shouldn't be that way. So to me, this is a big public safety issue, and we can't just depend on the sheriff's department, which is still understaffed, is still not able to be everywhere for everything. So I think it's good legislation. It's needed. I want entrepreneurs to be able to thrive and survive, but I want them to follow the rules. I want them to follow the laws that are in place that are appropriate, and right now they're not appropriate or they're not effective. So I'm in favor of the legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I've got Commissioner Watkins, then Clark, then Wynn, then Wilder, then Lucas in that order. So Commissioner Watkins?
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So much earlier, maybe 2 years ago now, business owners in the downtown area came to me, I think the sheriff, the mayor, and several of y'all requesting some support. Support around, there has been a growth in civilians, people trafficking our downtown. A byproduct of good business is you have more patrons on the street at night. At the several meetings I went to, they were looking for increased patrols or some type of presence to supplement them as people are getting out of clubs and restaurants after the 10 o'clock hour. What the businesses got in response to that request has been this: more people walking in their businesses, checking their cameras, checking their licensing on a repeated basis, not almost to the point of being agitating. Because as we say, a lot of these businesses, the majority, are certified licensed businesses, and we know that. But we're going in there every Friday, Saturday, in the middle of the primetime rush hour, doing stuff. And this is more stuff that's not, again, I think we've all been to Savannah, out of town. You see cop cars on the side of the street, parked, posted up, making sure people are safe in high concentration areas. And instead, now we're getting an additional, instead of us doing that service, let's find ways to have less businesses or places to patronize downtown. And again, the business owners, as part of their request for more officer support, was also to be included and respected as entrepreneurs and business owners when there are decisions that could impact their businesses, that they're notified and have an opportunity to have some communications around it. And to me, those seem like normal, reasonable requests of a community that's trying to grow and be inclusive and have people feel a part of it. And I say all that to say, these are a lot of very interesting points in this document. I think the spirit behind the merit is valid, but I am not a business owner that this affects, and most of us don't have much say-so in this when it comes to our day-to-day lives and businesses. Give these folks a chance. A work session, a public forum used to be commonplace with this body when we were passing legislation like this. This item is doing a lot of stuff. Like the mayor mentioned a lot of stuff, but just when I look at item 1A, the first item on the licensing categories, we're taking a manufacturer of malt beverages license from what used to be $1,800 to $2,500.
That's not changing. None of those things are changing.
I'm sorry, it's right here it's in the document though. So
None of that, the only changes that we have are the ones I mentioned. You're looking at a red line document, and that's
right, I'm
those
looking
not
at the
changed.
document so I thought we were passing an ordinance, and this is the ordinance that we were passing.
It's not changing any of that stuff that you mentioned. That's how you red line.
I didn't write this. I'm just reading it.
Does it mean both, giving it away or something?
So when I look at this document here, it shows me that the special permit line is changing from $50 to $250, which is a 500% increase.
That is correct.
So, but the rest of these changes don't apply?
That's correct.
How am I to know from this document what applies and what doesn't apply?
I literally read to you all the changes.
So can there be a document that exists that's only the things that are changing? Because I would assume.
It's struck and added in the.
It's in the ordinance, and it's.
So, and again, I'm in the page. So, getting back to, right, I'm on the same document you're on. Oh, right, so that says $2,500, right? Those are the changes that say $2,500, right? Right now it's $1,800. That page says $2,500. Am I wrong? So just look at that one, right? On this side, it's manufactured for malt beverage, $1,800. Crossed out at $1,800.
Yes, sir.
And if I may, Attorney Frank Howard, I want to bring to your attention some of the redlined text that you're looking at. The prices for our alcohol licenses as of about 2019 had not been updated or increased for approximately 20 years. And then those prices stepped up on two separate occasions in, I believe, 2019 and 2020. So you may be looking at old language, which was still in our code, which stated the 2019 prices as, and then it also separately states the 2020 prices. So the only license prices is the price that actually increased in this proposed legislation is the special event permit from $50 to $250. All other licenses are not changed by this legislation, as far as their price.
Red line version, Mr. Howard, at the end of the exhibit attached to the ordinance, all of the fees that are in black, starting with $2,500 for malt beverages going down, are the same as they exist now, except for the special event permit that goes to $250, and then the special event permit for nonprofits that goes to $125.
That is correct. Yes,
Okay.
I forgot to mention the nonprofits go up to $125.
That's fine. Thank you.
I yield to Commissioner Tillman.
I was gonna ask one question. How does a special permitted event or promoter obtain a license with no facility?
How do you obtain a license, a liquor license, or a beer and wine license with no facility, sir? You don't have a facility if it's special event.
It's not the promoter.
You said they got to just get a license, a beer and wine license. You can't get one if you don't have a facility. If you don't own a facility or have a facility.
If you don't have a facility or don't have the opportunity to get an alcohol license, you're gonna have a caterer that has that option that you're gonna be using. They can provide for the permit. You just need a host. The problem you got is these are not really special events. And the easy thing to do is to get the license on there. I think that the special events that we get now are just made up names that don't mean anything. We all know what special events are. It's not Freaky Friday. It's not Thirsty Thursday. It's not Wonderful Wednesday. It's not Tequila Tuesday. Those are not special events. And you ask for one every single week. And those are not special events. Those are not invited events where you have a host. Those are not events where you get an invitation to and you go there. Those are not special events. The fees that you got, $50 to $250, the easiest thing to do is fill out the application and get a license and have a wonderful time at your event. If you want to stay past 2 o'clock, then go to one of the 99 bars and clubs we got in Macon and go to a place that can accommodate you. The auditorium, they got their own alcohol license. You can go over there. Many places downtown have they do all the steps that they're supposed to. And we shouldn't be cutting corners for people who are not going to do what they're supposed to. And the end result is there's no accountability, there's a lack of safety, and there's no leverage in the event that someone's a bad actor. There's nothing we can do to them.
And thank you both for that. So there's a line and again, my request is simply for us to, same thing that we did at the beginning of the meeting. Let's table this and give the actors involved in this an opportunity to speak, ask questions, and again, engage their community. Like that used to be commonplace before COVID. There's a line in here that reads, events which are held for the purpose of generating profits. And that's a bit disturbing to me that we could deny it on the basis that they wanted to generate a profit. That's why all people do this, right? And again, there must be something I'm missing in that. That's rather un-American when I think of that phrase. And it also just strikes me as a troubling legal place to be in, that we're giving someone a lot of subjective power to decide whether or not my event is special or not, when I clearly, as the person who's hosting said event, said it was. For you to tell me no seems like, and if you don't do it within the 30 days, and we're not great about time as a organization. So I've planned my very special event, got flyers made, ordered stuff, then we've been denied. And again, and granted, I would suspect it would look something like I said it's my birthday, someone said it's not, and now I have to prove that this is my birthday party. They prove us wrong. That's a problem on our end. And I don't know, it just seems like that's opening ourselves up to a lot of subjective decisions, which...
Actually, the subjective decision is being made ever since you've been here. We have finally put some information here that tells you what it is and not, but not included everything. So we give you examples of what it's not. Right now, you can be as subjective as you want to and either say yes or no to every single item without any type of description. So we're trying to better define those, and that's why you've got all these examples in here of what it is. Again, it's not going to affect anybody who wants to run a legitimate business and be held accountable. I don't think it's going to run anybody out of business. What's it going to do is going to make us a safer community.
So if you mentioned these places don't have cameras, like a direct one-to-one would be, if you're gonna be a special event place, you need to have cameras in place according to these rules. These seem like I'm doing everything kind of around that, which and I don't know, I know other people wanna speak, but me personally, I would like for us to slow down and discuss this with business owners. I don't even think that business owners would be opposed to it, but it is a bit shocking and jarring to me presented like this and being asked to vote immediately. So, but I'll yield to the rest of the body because I'm sure other people have other thoughts.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
Yeah, I've just had a couple questions. We've talked a lot. I just was wondering what conversations the administration has had downtown. And because we've said a lot, but we've not asked the question flat.
Well, we've been getting a lot of information and requests for downtown for quite some time. There's been plenty of meetings. I see Mr. Talley in here. He's hosted a couple of those meetings. The notes that I've seen from the meetings that Commissioner Watkins had at the Sheriff's Department mention these very things right here. Newtown and certainly downtown is in favor of it. We are growing, and it is growing pains, but we can't continue to turn a blind eye on crime that's happening. You're not going to have a downtown. It's not just downtown. We're talking about that now, but it's to every part of Macon, because what are they going to do if you do something strictly downtown? They're going to get a satellite office somewhere else, and there is no special event permit place. You have places all the time that have birthday parties and things that don't involve alcohol and all that stuff. But too many times we have hundreds and sometimes thousands of people hanging out outside of a place that you don't even know who's selling you the alcohol. If you go in there and get overserved on there, there's no accountability. You get overserved and go out there and kill somebody. There's no accountability. You don't know, you went into this ABC bar thinking that's who you bought the alcohol from when it's really some other person that just having a secret bar through a flyer. We have got to do a better job of policing.
Wouldn't that be illegal now?
We've got to, it's no enforcement to it. We have to do a better job of doing that, and that's what we're trying to do. So I'm not having a conversation back and forth. I'm telling you this in response to Mayor Pro Tem Clark's question, is yes, this is just not something made up. We constantly get calls. Every time there's an incident downtown, there's a post downtown. I see some business owners here. I know they're not going to, I'm not going to put them on the spot, but they have called me personally to complain about other places that are operating illegally. And they're doing all the right things, and these other folks are not doing all the right things. So all you have to do is get a license, do a background check, and pay the money. And I'm sorry, Commissioner, tell me, if you don't have $5,000 to pay for a year license, you don't need to be in business. We need you to be able to have the property insurance and all those things. But answer your question, Mayor Pro Tem Clark, is numerous people have. People who are invested downtown, including Newtown, Macon, and the Main Street and all of them have been asking for this for a while. You're right, we are not the sheriffs, and we can't force the sheriff to have any particular type of numbers of people out here to do enforcement at night, but we are policymakers, and this is certainly a policy that I do not believe is going to hurt anybody or put anybody out of the business who wants to do things the right way and may actually offer protection to them. Commissioner?
That's, the policy thing is a good segue to my next question. What's the thought behind the additional fee? Hold on, I just turned the digital version off when I tried to turn it on. The additional changes, line 18 changes the special event permit from 50 to 250. Line 19 changes the special event permit where an application is a nonprofit from 25 to 125. If a nonprofit, we have to register as a host. It also says in the new legislation that somebody has to register as a host, correct? A nonprofit, I assume, would be, if this is a nonprofit event, they would be the correct host applicant name, right?
Right.
If they are doing a special event permit at a event space downtown that they've rented out, and they hire a caterer from one of our many awesome catering businesses who also have to apply for a $600 catering permit already. It's not going to change. Those sets of circumstances. I'm right on that, right? And they would be charged the $600 catering fee for a nonprofit would be what the caterer would have to get. Then the caterer would be would charge the nonprofit who has to also get a $125 permit. Is that correct? In that set of circumstances?
Yeah, the applicant, if it's not, sorry.
Go ahead.
There we go. It would go from 25, was it 25 what it was, to 125.
Right.
It's half the amount, just like before, 25 to 50 to 125 to $250.
I guess what I'd like to entertain, I kind of fancy it a friendly amendment. I'm in support of the general concept, but the even with the original code of having, even though it's a small amount, these, like if Habitat for Humanity, the point of having those fundraisers is to get every dollar they can to build houses. That's the point of it. The return on investment for letting them not have these fees is, I believe, tangible. I wonder, even if it's 100, even because it's 125, if they're going to pass if the caterer is going to pass the cost of their permit on to the nonprofit when they have to pay the caterer, isn't it in the community? I would argue that it's in the community's best interest that we strike line 19 fully.
Are you asking for, is that a motion to amend it?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion and see if there's a second to see if there's a will of the body. If there's will to do that.
Motion's in order if there's a second.
Line 19 is the special event permit for nonprofit organizations.
Just to get everybody oriented, if you look at section 1 of the main,
Yes.
you got a second? Of the main ordinance, I think it's line 20 is what you're talking about. I know it's different on the other one, but it looks like a special event permit where applicant is a nonprofit organization, $125 per day of the event. The copy I have is line 20 on the main body, on the main version, it's not red line.
It might be
Okay.
just the formatting might be off. Yeah.
So was there a second?
I think after we get through discussion, Commissioner, Mayor Pro Tem Clark, if that's something that you want to add as a friendly amendment, we can consider at that time. Okay, you second, I'm sorry.
I just, again, wanted to get a motion in a second with the idea of waiving it so we could have a discussion. I would very much, I would just like to have a discussion to see if it's something that the administration's open to.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to Commissioner Wynn.
Gee, you got to me finally, okay. I was asleep over here. First of all, what we're talking about here is basically the legal and lawful use and sale of alcohol. And I see some business owners here that sell alcohol. I bet they comply with getting a license. Another thing that you just barely mentioned a minute ago was insurance. What if some of these people don't buy insurance and have these catered and special events and somebody gets shot or killed or hurt at one of these special events? The legal people, the people that are licensed, the businesses that are licensed, taking the time and money to do that, will have insurance to cover that. This is just about legal, and where can you have a special event or a catered event when you don't have a location? What are you going to do, have it on Canterbury Road or something? I mean, where do you have these events where you don't have a place to put it? That's a street party. A street party is an event, so you probably need to have some kind of license to sell alcohol. You probably need to have insurance to sell alcohol. So I'm very much in favor of this. There may be some tweaking that needs to be done, but I'm very much in favor of this to protect our legal businesses that spend the money to get the legal licenses they have now to have their businesses open. I do know of one incident that happened in downtown. The business claims they closed because they couldn't compete with a business across the street that was doing catering without a license. And that's the kind of things, there's a lot of stories out there that Mayor can tell us and has heard more than that, but we just need to keep these people legal, licensed, insured, and do the right thing for our community. Pay the money if it's $125 and if somebody's got a caterer and for a nonprofit and they're already charging $600, I can see us letting that just be part of the cost there, but that's something we can tweak. But I just think we just need to think about this. It's the legal, lawful use of alcohol in our community. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Water?
Is it me now?
Yes, sir.
Well, I've looked over this thing and I have heard and had calls from multiple businesses in town, and a lot of the events are held in the same place over and over again. So why don't that business just go get a business license to start with? I have run a business, owned a business in this county before. It's been a while. But I've done all the right things. When I owned a towing company, I had 3 and 4 trucks, and I had cargo insurance and $1 million umbrella, et cetera, et cetera. But then some guy could go more or less have a boom hanging out the back of a pickup truck and go get the same cars I could get when I was in business. So bottom line is, I think this just adds teeth to reality, and we can sit here and think what we want, but we know it's existing out there where people are abusing the process and skirting around it. We can dance around it all we want, but we know it's happening, and I think this will put more teeth and make it to where some of the ones that maybe are just barely getting by will go through the process, get the proper business license, and the ones that are already going through all that, then they already doing the right thing. It's not that hard to do, to go ahead and get a proper business license, as long as you can pass the background checks, et cetera, et cetera. But $250 fee for an event that you feel like's an event that you really want to have, that's not that big a deal to me. I'm all for this thing.
Commissioner Lucas?
Thank you. I've been listening, and the more I hear people give reasons for doing this, the more I have concerns. Because you're dealing in absolutes, and there are no absolutes in this thing. I, I worry that we're acting hastily. A number of the items, I was interested in the Mayor Pro Tem's, and I did second his motion to change this, but that was not the only thing that I think that you were going to make a motion on. I hope not. I hope that wasn't the only thing. There's several other items. And I think when you act hastily, you put in place stuff, and then later on you say, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Well, it's too late then, when you could slow it down, take your time. And I think it would be wise to have more folks who are actually involved in this kind of stuff that we're sitting up here wanting to regulate. And I know it's our job to vote on changes and implement things and all that, but we're moving too hastily on this. I would like to see us table this and have a public hearing, because when you do things like this that are impacting and you don't realize how much you're impacting folks, you find out when it's too late. And we don't usually go back and take stuff out of the law. We usually just leave it there, and whoever it has the negative impact on, so be it. I would really like to see us table this and have a public hearing. Bring in the businesses that we're quoting, that we're talking about. Bring in these other folks who do these special events. I'd like for someone to tell me a couple of examples of special events, and then I want to retain my time, though. What are two kind of these special events that we're talking about?
One could be your 60-year class reunion. Your wedding's a special event. Your mama's 100th birthday. Your son just graduated from Fort Valley State. Those are special events. They're not reoccurring events that happen all the time.
Okay.
What we're getting is some made-up names and
Right.
events and calling them special events. The folks can still do the paperwork and still pay the fee and still have their parties. It's not preventing that. It's just allowing us to hold these folks accountable and to help provide some safety to the people who are asking for it. We keep asking for more
Okay.
time. It's been going on
Okay.
for 2 years.
Okay. Okay. It's still very troubling, and I think all of the answers we don't have in front of us. I think a lengthier, another discussion outside of what we're doing tonight would be helpful, but it never hurts either to bring those groups that are involved with this, the businesses, as well as those folks who some are saying are having these special events and they're actually something else. I'd like for somebody to show me that rather than just saying that, and I take your word. There are a lot of questions here, and if we can't table this and have a future discussion on it or a public hearing or something, then I'm going to have to vote against it. It might go into effect, but after I'm gone off of this commission, I will come back and tell you, I told you so, that this is not, this is going to negatively impact a bunch of folks. I can tell you that right up front. And that comes from a lot of years of experience and just knowing how this stuff works. This would be a mistake to go full speed on this. And smart folks look at all the questions that are being brought up. Smart folks don't take the chance that you're making a mistake by acting so quickly. Smart folks give others the opportunity to implement some suggestions like having a public hearing. So, are we smart or not? But that's my comment. Ms. Mayor, I would like to hear more about this. My questions are not all answered. I'm not going to continue to talk about this, but I'm going to have to vote no, but I don't want to have to vote no on something simply because I don't have all of the information nor the input from the groups affected. So thank you for letting me make those remarks.
Thank you, Commissioner, because we have Commissioner Jones and then Commissioner Watkins.
Yes, sir, Mayor. And in regard to what Commissioner Clark mentioned, it looks like that's covered to me when you look at Section 4, 219, the authority to waive requirements for good cause. The mayor or county manager shall have the authority to waive any requirement imposed on any special event or special event application under this chapter, including the fees imposed for licensure where good cause is shown and it is otherwise in the best interest of Macon-Bibb County that such requirements should be waived. It looks to me like that would cover Mayor Pro Tem Clark's concern.
Commissioner Watkins?
So when we first started the meeting, I provided y'all with a couple of items, one of being a playground swing set for the commission, for the body. And we decided that we should use our due diligence and get a director and a subject matter expert to discuss it further, and that was for a swing set for kids. So the day we talking about right now, I'm asking for a table so we can have a public hearing for something that we know affects entrepreneurs and several brick and mortar business owners, developing business owners, entrepreneurs, and people in our city. So again, I'm asking for a table.
Got a motion and a second. All those in
Same manner
favor?
in which we tabled the swing set earlier.
All those in favor of the table, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It fails.
I didn't. Could we do like the roll or something, or raise your hand?
We'll do a
a
roll
little
call.
bit?
Commissioner Wynn, how do you vote? Commissioner Bronson, how do you vote? Commissioner Lucas, how do you vote? Commissioner Jones, how do you vote? Mayor Pro Tem Clark, how do you vote? Commissioner Water, how do you vote? Commissioner Howell, how do you vote? Commissioner Watkins, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Tillman, how do you vote? Motion fails. This time, I'd like to move forward with a vote.
So I got a motion for amendment.
A motion for amendment by,
Well, I'll yield to Self if he wants. Yes, I remember he was up there first.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark, would you
Let me
like to
shoot.
amend the motion for your previous motion? Okay. Okay. He'd like to make that motion of striking that 20 out for, go ahead.
Friendly suggestion on that.
Yeah.
So there's no textual Huh? No,
But he called for it. She
he
seconded
calls for a
it.
motion, and there's a distinction between the provision related to a waiver of a provision for good cause and not having it in there in the first place. So you can delete it if it's just so is your desire. My understanding is the motion to amend would be to strike the provision related to charging a fee to nonprofits, a catering fee, special event fee rather, for nonprofits. Is that correct?
No, the special permit, just line 20.
Line 20.
In its entirety.
That's right. Well, here's my suggestion. I don't want to, if your intent is not to charge, not to have a special permit, event permit fee charged to a nonprofit, eliminating it totally may give somebody an argument that it's included in the regular fee charged for $250. So I would suggest, if you want to accomplish that, leaving the language special event permit where applicant is a nonprofit, 0 per day for the event. So striking 125 and putting a $0. So there's no confusion. Is that okay?
And that takes out the original fee from the original fee too.
That's right. So is that okay? So that's the motion, Mayor, on the amendment.
That got amendment motion. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Wynn. Just on this particular amendment, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're amending line 20 of section 1 to take the special permit fee for a nonprofit from $125 down to 0. And that way, because a nonprofit who has a special permit or special event is going to, if they're going to serve alcohol, they're going to hire a caterer or hire another person who has to apply for that special permit fee. This makes sure that the nonprofit does not have to eat the catering special permit fee and the nonprofit fee. Does that make sense?
Okay, so the amendment would effectively make the special event permit fee for a nonprofit organization 0. You would not charge, the county would not charge a nonprofit for a special event permit. That's the proposed amendment. Okay.
Okay.
He said no, so I was
All right, Commissioner Tillman.
No, I don't agree with him, but I understand it. But I'll address the chair. If you could ask the mayor pro tem, why are you trying to be so passive? Man up. What is the difference that you're gonna pick a nonprofit as opposed to all the rest of these citizens and business owners and not waive their fee? You know, you're trying to justify a reason to say, I want to support the mayor or somebody else around the table. Just do it. Why not? Why are you gonna do it for one and not the other, or just have the discrepancy? You know, the commission is the commission that should have the discrepancy. What we're doing, we're giving all the authority and the power already that the mayor has to now the mayor and or the county manager to make a decision based on all of this. Your amendment is garbage, in my opinion.
Okay. That just applies to, we got to call the question. He called, I think he did a motion to call the question.
The provision, am I recognized?
Yes, ma'am.
If there is a provision that the fees, all the fees can be waived, I think I heard that any and all fees can be waived by whom?
by the mayor or
For nonprofit.
So, I mean, what?
Commissioner Lucas, just to let you know,
I'm just asking,
that particular waiver already applies to all the parks we do
I
right now.
know that.
This is not new. This is something that every mayor before me, from Lucas to Marshall to, no, I'm sorry, Lucas ain't been elected, from
Not
Ellis
yet.
to Marshall to Rickard, and now myself have had the same authority. This is not new to this commission or anybody who follows it. So yes, we've always had the power to waive that in special circumstances, and we still have to follow the same due process we always follow. Those are limited circumstances, few and far between. But it does happen.
That's not the point I'm arguing. I was simply asking if that provision is in there, then why, I mean, what?
Well, that's the argument that I think Commissioner Jones was making, but he still asked for it to be done. Commissioner Tillman, please, sir.
Was he gonna answer?
Yeah, from a procedural standpoint, the provision you're talking about with the mayor and the county manager being able to waive fees would apply to all fees, including the nonprofits, but it wouldn't be mandatory. If you remove the fee on the nonprofit to 0, then you can't charge them at all. It eliminates the discretion of the mayor and the county manager as to that particular fee. That's the
Okay,
distinction.
I appreciate that information. Y'all gonna be coming back, changing it anyway, so it doesn't matter.
All right, so Commissioner Jones?
One question to council. So the difference is it's automatic just for nonprofits versus they would have the discretion.
Correct, and the discretion's still there with respect, if this amendment passes and the main motion passes, the discretion would still be there with respect to all the other
For
fees.
all the others.
Yeah.
All right, everyone aware of the motion that has been seconded by the amendment for Mayor Pro Tem Clark? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-4. So now we're going to vote on the amendment itself. Yes, sir.
No, it would be the.
We just vote on the amendment.
As amended, the
Right.
motion as amended.
Okay. Now we're going to vote on the motion as amended. Do you have a question?
I would like to motion to amend item 2D, excuse me, which is the section, Yeah, so the item 2G is the proof that the application has been reviewed by the Director of Code Enforcement or their successor or designee prior to filing, which strikes me as like a duplicate task. If I'm understanding the process correctly, I have to turn in the special permit application to the tax assessors or the business license office.
You turn it in to the code enforcement who does the due diligence to see if it meets all the criteria. And if it does meet the criteria, it's forwarded to the tax commissioner who then issues the permit like he does now.
Who do I pay the $250? Today, who do I pay the
Tax
$50
commissioner.
to? I
You
pay
don't
the
pay it until
$50
you've been accepted or rejected, yes, sir.
to the
Tax commissioner.
tax commissioner.
Commissioner.
And under this, I would pay the $250 to
Tax commissioner.
the tax commissioner.
Nothing's changed.
Under the current process, do I have to discuss anything with code enforcement?
No, sir. This is the reason for the change.
Okay, so yeah, I want to strike code enforcement from the process and keep it where I just go to one business one office to get my permit would be the goal, because now you're making me go. It seems like I'm going to two places now.
No, you're going to, well, you're dropping your application off at one location and then you're paying at the tax commissioner.
So yeah, I would have to, in order for me to get a special permit, I would have to engage with two government offices that are in
And the
two
person who gets
physical
an alcohol
different
license
physical
has to
locations.
engage with 5 different places to
Okay,
get their
but
permit.
like we say, for a special permit, it's my Grammy's 100th birthday. I need to do, is there online
Yes, sir,
mechanism?
there's online.
So but I would need to go to code enforcement
Drop the
and to
application off.
yeah, so as I said,
Okay.
I would like to
You heard his
strike
motion.
G.
Is there a second? Yeah, I have a second by Commissioner Bronson. Yeah, go ahead.
So the motion and the second to amend is to strike 2G, which is proof that the application has been reviewed by the Director of Code Enforcement or their successor or designee prior to filing, including a signature on the application materials from such reviewing officer to acknowledge that such review has been completed and that the application appears to comply with the requirements of this chapter. You want to strike that whole provision?
And if legal's interpretation is that would make it so I only have to go deal with tax assessors, tax commissioner's office.
Well, what my interpretation would be, you wouldn't have to get Director of Code Enforcement involved, but there are other things you would have to do, including planning and zoning, but.
Right, and that's.
All right, you've heard the motion now. Is there a second? And we had Commissioner Bronson had a second. Commissioner Tillman, can I take a vote, sir? Yes, sir. Okay. All that are in favor of the motion by Commissioner Watkins, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion fails. We'll
All
get
right.
back to the original
So,
motion.
yeah, right.
Amended motion.
So back to section 2D, which is the certificate of good standing. I would like to make a motion to strike that, but I would also like an explanation of how does one acquire a certificate of good standing?
So a certificate of good standing is to make sure that the person making the application pays all their taxes. It's the same certificate of good standing we've used over the last year through our process to keep people from taking advantage of the system and not paying our taxes. So all they have to do is sign an affidavit saying they're in good standing. They don't owe any taxes for the last 90 days. It's an affidavit. It's a form we provide to them, so they just have to sign an affidavit saying they don't owe any monies.
And this is again, host a special permit for just a special anything. Again, I find that to be just extra hoop for a business to jump through that I don't see.
They're just signing a name. I mean, it's not a hoop to jump through. The hoop is the code enforcement having to verify that the truth and veracity of their statement. But the person has they do it anyway, the good standing letter. But again, the owner has to do the same things. You don't want them to go through some hoops, but you're requiring the owner of a business to do so.
I don't, again, so we have when you pick up an application for a special permit, included in that is a certificate of good standing.
That's correct.
But if you did owe something to the government, you would not be able to officially have your wedding.
That's correct.
I don't see how that helps. I would still like people to be able to get married or do whatever their special celebration is. So I would motion for this to
understand
be
your position.
struck. Do I
You've
have a
heard
second?
Commissioner Watkins' last proposal. Do we have a second? It dies for lack of a second. Commissioner,
right, so-
Commissioner Tillman, I'm with you, sir.
Go ahead.
I just want to say, regardless of how this vote comes out, whether it's 5-4, whatever, it's all of our jobs to explain this to the public and get the information. And once the vote is decided, we're done, all right? Because in my profession, we just gotta get the information, and I'll be talking to the mayor. So we have to explain it. So it doesn't matter. People gonna say the commission supported it. They ain't gonna say what's the number, whatever. So we gotta get the information and share it publicly with everybody. Just wanna make that clear. And so regardless of the vote, once it's done, I'm done with it.
Thank you, Commissioner Tillman. Commissioner Howell?
I believe I'm the last one to say anything on this discussion. With all due respect, getting property rezoned requires about 5 stops. Getting a business license, getting a building permit to build a house requires about that many stops. It is what it is. If people aren't willing to jump through the hoops, maybe they need to find something else to do. With that said, I call for the question.
Got a motion, call the question. Got a second by Commissioner Tillman. All those in favor of calling the questions, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We call the question already, right?
Motion to amend, you debate on the motion as amended is cut off, so there's no further motions that are.
So this is the final vote, and you want me to do a roll call, or you want me to just call the vote? Commissioner Wynn, how do you vote? Commissioner Bronson, how do you vote? Commissioner Lucas, how do you vote? Commissioner Jones, how do you vote? Yes. Lieutenant Clark, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder, how do you vote? Yes. Commissioner Howell? Yes. Commissioner Watkins? No. Commissioner Tillman? No. Thank you. Motion carries. And we are still in our committee of the whole. We have several items left on the agenda. We also have an executive session. We'll get to a stopping point in just a minute to take a brief break. And we can also consider whether or not we want to have the executive session during this meeting or we want to have it at our regular scheduled meeting. We're going to move on to item 5A. Item 5A is speed zone and speed limits. A resolution to amend Schedule 9 as referenced in Section 28-17 of the Macon-Bibb County Code of Ordinances relating to speed zones and speed zone limits in Macon-Bibb County to add 4 school zones. These school zones, we need to pass this amendment to allow us to put up the radar and the cameras on each of those private and charter schools that will be having it. So at this time, I'll make a motion to approve. Can I get a second? Second by Commissioner Tillman. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item B is an ordinance amending a portion of Section 28-19 of the Macon-Bibb County Code of Ordinance to set the maximum speed limits on Twin Pines Drive, Rourke Road, Hall Road, and Tucker Road, sponsored by Lane Lucas and Commissioner Valley Wynn. Can both y'all make that motion in a second so we can get discussion? Got a motion by Commissioner Lucas, second by Commissioner Wynn. Discussion relating to this particular item. Commissioner Lucas.
Just want to let everyone know that the Pedestrian Safety Review Board has recommended the reductions in speed. We have found, and all the research shows, that when you reduce the speed, you decrease the likelihood that someone, if they get hurt, if they get hit, that they are terribly hurt. The higher the speed limit, the more damage that's done. And so periodically, the Pedestrian Safety Review Board is recommending to the commission that you join us in supporting the reduction in speed limits. There are 4 of them listed here, and these came to us as requests from some neighborhood groups. There have been individuals and even some of the members of the Pedestrian Safety Review Board who have submitted these. And so we would respectfully ask that you support the Pedestrian Safety Review Board's recommendations on these 4 streets. I believe all of them have a reduction of 5, I believe it's only 5 miles an hour, but 5 miles makes a difference.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucas. Commissioner Wynn?
Yes, sir, thank you. I also support this because we need to reduce the speeds on these roads. Tucker Road is like a mini racetrack over there. It's a long road and people just speed over there. This is also, I think earlier this year, where a child got killed.
Yeah.
Trying to cross the road there. So, we need to look at these. People need to slow down. But Tucker Road was the one I've had contact with other citizens about reducing the speed on. I wish it was 10 miles per hour less, but, it is what it is.
Commissioner Howell and then Commissioner Bronson.
That was my question. I looked through this, I couldn't find what the speed limits were.
I didn't find it either.
What are they and what are they going to?
It was, I think it's.
If you say 5 miles an
I
hour, I'm assuming
believe
it's,
each one was 5.
so it's
a
probably dropping
reduction
from
of 5.
30 to,
One was 35 and it's 30, one was 30 and it's 25. And Tucker Road was one that really was spotlighted because of the
Child.
death of that child. And there's some areas in there where people just use it as a racetrack.
Yeah.
allegedly.
I can't remember.
Commissioner Bronson?
No, just in agreement with
Well-
both, and what we'd like to add to, as a sponsor as well. Twin Ponds is one of those roads, basically coming, people that cut through from Jones County coming down. The speed rate on that side basically is roughly about 35, give or take. So reducing it down to 30 will be a great help to also include possible stop signs. So we're discussing that now, but great work on this latest.
Thank you, Commissioner Bronson. We'll add you as a sponsor. This time we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries to be sent to consent agenda. Item 6A is a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept a donation of .246 acres more or less along Jordan Lakes Road. I'm not sure, I won't have our attorneys come up here. I know she's eager to speak, but this is right there at the new addition to Coca-Cola right off Jennifer Drive. We want to make sure that we have the property there for the right-of-way, and this is basically giving that property back to us to make sure that we have access for that $80 million investment that Coca-Cola's made. Got a motion by Commissioner Tillman. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Bronson. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. We sent to consent agenda. Item B is a resolution to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with the Salvation Army. I see them patiently waiting here, granting the Salvation Army Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG funding, an amount of $100,299.35 for the provision of emergency shelter services. I also see Ms. Jackson here today. Do we have a motion to approve this? Motion by Commissioner Tillman. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Wilder. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you for being here tonight. That'll be on our consent agenda in just a few moments. Item C is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of National Recreation and Park Association mentor for youth impacted by substance misuse grant in the amount of $70,000 with no local match required. We still want the intern to make that recommendation, that proposal? Okay, I'll give some deference to him if you don't mind coming down. Our intern wanted to present something to you tonight, and he's been new on the job, so we'll tell him to keep it very briefly, and hopefully he can start on a good note. But this is item C. Start by identifying yourself, sir, and then we will let you speak to us before we vote.
Good afternoon. My name is Jake McCarthy. I'm an intern at the county attorney's office. How about now?
There you go.
There we go. Okay.
Speak into the mic.
My name is Jake McCarthy. I'm an intern at the county attorney's office this summer. And this is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of mentoring for youth impacted by substance misuse.
Can you speak into the mic a little bit? You're very soft-spoken for a lawyer. So.
It's not working? Oh, there we go. Let's try
There
this
you go.
again. Okay. Like I said, this is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of the NRPA Mentoring for Youth Impacted by Substance Misuse Grant.
All right. You have received documentation previously on this particular item. There is no match or anything required for this. So at this time, we'd entertain a motion for approval. Motion by Commissioner Wynn, second by Commissioner Bronson. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, young man. We sent our consent agenda. Oh, okay. We're going to move on to contracts and purchase orders for approval. Item 8A is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an independent contractor agreement with River Edge Foundation, whereby Macon-Bibb County will provide funding under the Home Investment Partnership Program to the amount of $600,000 for the construction of 26 tiny homes in Bloomfield. I saw Mr. Hatcher here earlier. I know we are close on time, but we'd be happy to have commissioners ask you questions. Most of everyone knows what this particular issue is. Director Hatcher is he's no stranger to this group here. These are housing or urban development funds. He's right there next to the end there. Y'all want to hear from him, or are you satisfied with reading? Okay. Mr. Hatcher, if you don't mind, come up here just a moment to satisfy Miss Wynn's dying need here. We'd be happy to hear from you.
Cass Hatcher, CEO of River Edge Behavioral Health. Oh, the question, well, this is, well, first of all, thank you to the mayor. We applied for Governor Kemp's funding, opera funding. We received 4.7
Commissioner
million.
Lucas is going to remind you that came from Biden, so can you please say
Yeah,
Biden?
yes,
and Kemp, so I don't have to hear that again.
For President Biden, we received $4.7 million to provide affordable housing for clients who are once homeless or have a disability. And so we were so fortunate to have the funding, and River Edge Foundation is putting in another $600,000. We've asked Economic Community Development for $600,000. The Community Foundation gave us $20,000. So overall, we have over $6 million, $6.4 million to go ahead and build this development in Bloomfield. Bloomfield, the neighborhood hasn't seen in development probably over 20 years. This will be affordable housing. We will provide, River Edge will provide the wraparound services in terms of clinical services, case management, to allow the clients to stay there basically in an affordable home, but also have the clinical support for them to remain stable in their home as well.
Where in Bloomfield are these being built?
This will be on the, right along Bloomfield Parkway in Bloomfield, right behind where the old, used to be the old Wings Cafe, used to be the old Quincy's.
Please don't say that.
Okay, well, it'll be the old Quincy's.
Old Quincy's.
Old Quincy's. There's 9 acres behind there that we have purchased several years ago. It's walkable from the CVS, S&S cafeteria, and of course, Atron has a clinic there that could provide physical services for the clients who are living there as well.
Are these truly tiny homes that'll
These
only
are
house
tiny
one?
homes. These will be tiny homes. They're 569 square feet.
Okay,
They'll be pretty. There's going to be, we'll call it, the name of the project is Serenity Courtyard.
okay.
So you can imagine 26 tiny homes in a pattern with a courtyard in the middle for visibility, walkable, green space. It's going to be an enhancement to the neighborhood.
And one person per house?
One person per house. What we found in our demographics is that the majority of the people who are homeless and have a disability are basically, well, all single. We provide housing for families as well, but right now demographics say we need more single family homes for one person to live there.
I feel a field trip coming up when these get made. I'd like to see those. Just thank you, Cass.
I
You're
think
quite
he's going to
welcome.
get one of them. Okay.
Okay.
Commissioner Tim, you're not going to say anything about that Wild Wing Cafe, are you? Okay. His light's on. Your light's still on, Commissioner Tillman? Okay. There you go.
Cash and I went and looked at this probably about a year and a half ago.
Sure did, yes.
And I'm just excited with this new development that's happening over there in that area. It's much needed. We're also doing simultaneously, hopefully there'll be on the other side of Bloomfield Road that runs down Bloomfield Road and Log Cabin. Close to that area is a development as well. But we're excited that you guys and you're involved in this. We've been talking about it for about a year and a half now.
Yes, we have, yes.
And it's going to be great for folks to see. And people still, although we said where it was, they really don't realize where it is, that it's truly in the neighborhood, and you're going to see a true development. And thank you for it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tillman. At this time, I entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Tillman, second by Wilder. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries, will be sent to consent agenda. Item B is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a lease agreement with A.T. Holt Company for the lease of vacant property lot, I think that's R073OC, Walnut Street Lane, for vehicles authorized to park therein by the county. We've already been using this parking lot for a while. We have a lease. There's a small increase because we're renewing that lease. And then we may be looking at buying that in the near future. But this is a obligation that we have to renew the lease so we continue parking right there by the courthouse. We'd ask for a motion to approve. Motion by Commissioner Howell. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, no. Your light went on, sir. You good? Okay. That concludes the business. We haven't need to go to executive session, and we still have one item on the agenda. I want to get a consensus from the commissioners on how to proceed. I know we have our Boy Scouts here.
Go into executive session.
I got that. And we can either have the executive session now, or we can wait and have the executive session at the regular meeting. So I hear
Executive
someone wants to
session.
go ahead and handle it now.
Executive session.
Okay.
You got a gift back there waiting on you, executive session.
Yeah, some chicken back there.
Y'all got a gift back there. Somebody's waiting on you back there in
going?
executive session.
Okay. So what I hear is we want to go ahead and end the committee of the whole and move on to our regular meeting, and then we'll take this item up in the executive session. Is that what I understand? Okay. Everybody but Tillman anyway. All right, we're going to do that, and we'll go ahead and move into our item here today for the regular meeting. We'll get you out of there quick. I got it. All right, thank everyone for being here today. Let me officially call this meeting to order. Today is August the 1st. The time is 6:10, and we're going to go ahead and move on with our meeting. Do we have Pastor Bo Turner here tonight from Real Life Church? Thank you, sir, for being up here. If you don't mind coming up to the podium there. We're going to begin with a brief prayer, and those of you that can and will, please stand and bow your head. It'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'd ask our Boy Scouts to lead that at the appropriate time. But let's begin with the prayer.
Can we bow for a moment of prayer? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We enter your gates with thanksgiving, your courts with praise. We're thankful unto you, and we bless your name. We ask now, Father, that your hand would be upon this commission today. Give them guidance, give them wisdom as they conduct the business for our great community here in Macon-Bibb. Let your favor continue to surround this area, and we will always honor you and give you glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Hey, Scout, why don't y'all come up here and lead us all in the pledge?
Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, in liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Not aware of any announcements or presentations tonight. We're going to do the approval of the minutes, and then we're going to probably move to executive session in the back. So at this time, we'd ask for the approval of the minutes from the July 18, 2023 meeting. Can I have a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Jones. We get a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem Clark. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now, at this time, I entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purposes allowed by law, including those with legal consultation, purchase of real estate, and all others allowed by personnel matters. I had a motion to go into executive session. Got a motion by by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Bronson. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. We're now in executive session. At this time, I'd like to get a motion to come out of executive session. Motion by Bronson, second by, was that Howell? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. All right, we're going back on, yeah, I'm not sure if we have any public comments on agenda items. Two I have appear to be non-agenda items. We're going to get down to the consent agenda, so let me tell you what we're doing here first of all. We got consent agenda items A through O, but we're going to pull off items N, which is a pilot program we're going to vote separately on. Item O, I'm sorry, is that we're going to vote separately on it. And also item F, which is a Chapter 4 amendment for special events permits for those who, we can pull that off so you can vote separately on that one. So right now, we're just doing A through 0O, except for F and O, we're going to vote on those separately. So this time we entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with those exceptions. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Clark, second by Commissioner Wilder. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, that motion carries. And we're going to move on to item F, which is an ordinance to amend the various provisions of Chapter 4 of the Macon-Bibb County Code of Ordinances for the purposes of narrowing the use of special event alcohol licenses and for other lawful purposes. Those of you who remember earlier, we spent over an hour discussing this in our open meeting, and it came out as a 5-4 vote. So Commissioner Watkins, do you have a question, sir?
Yeah, so I wanted to make an amendment to the section on the, and again, I don't know what y'all came here to do today, but I'm a legislator. I think this is poor, very poor legislation, and I would like to see some changes made. Y'all can vote no to it if y'all want to.
We would,
So,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Watkins, we got you.
Okay.
What's your recommendation?
Yeah, so right now we're doing a 500% increase to the special event license, and I get it, we want to be punitive on these folks, but 500% from $50 to $250 for a single thing. In most spaces, it's considered egregious, like something went up 500%. Let's talk about that. I think I would like the motion to change it to 100. Granted that maybe a change does need to occur. 100% increase, doubling the fee is my proposal. So changing from 250 to 100.
Second by Commissioner Lucas. We'll go ahead and hear a motion on that. All those in favor of changing it from, I'm sorry, you hit your button?
No.
Okay. From 250 to 100, as Commissioner Watkins has requested, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, motion fails 5-4. Anything else on this particular item?
Yes. In the restriction section.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
In the restriction section, we're making the shutdown time 11:30 in section C and 11:59. Like again, it's not midnight. I was changing to 2 o'clock, which is the shutdown time for the rest of the universe of clubs and bars.
Now, which one?
Section 4-218, where it says 11:30, changing that to 2 a.m.
You heard his recommendation. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Bronson. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion fails 5-4. You got anything else, sir?
Oh.
I'm still. It's 11:30. It's quit serving alcohol, closed at 12. But Commissioner Watkins, I still got the floor before we move on, Commissioner.
Yeah.
We did.
So the wording that's there that exists around not being able to make a profit, I guess I don't understand why we would create that as a space.
Attorney Gruber.
Yeah.
Events which are held for the purpose of generating profits. That seemed like that would be all events ever held.
Yeah, the intent of that section, and if you go to F, let's see, so everybody knows where I'm talking.
F3. Sorry.
4-218, that's right, 4-218 F2, and it says, F3, excuse me, it says for purpose of interpreting F, which is the intent of this section is so that somebody can't claim it's a special event and to get around getting an alcohol license and basically mimicking an ordinary business operation with a special event permit. And so 3 gives examples, and it says, some of the reasons that the special event permit shall not be granted could include, and it gives examples, including, if you see on the section right below that, events which are held for the purpose of generating profits. That doesn't mean it can't make a profit, but it would be a consideration that, for example, if you're open to the general public for something you deem like Valentine's Day dinner to the general public would be an example of something that is not traditionally a special event, like, you know, a homecoming event or a wedding event or whatever. And the point of that section is not you can't make a profit, but if the whole point of the event is just to make a profit and it doesn't have any other indications of being special, for example, you know, a wedding event or whatever. So, you know, having a Super Bowl party at an event location is not necessarily a special event, and you look at whether it's making a profit or designed to make a profit is considering that. And the reason for that is if it's a business that is there to make a profit, generally speaking, and it does it on a regular basis as part of its ordinary business, it needs to get a liquor license. That's the whole point of it, so it doesn't get around that provision. But it's not that if you make a profit, you can't get it. It's just a consideration when there's a question of whether or not that's a special event. Usually it's going to be pretty obvious whether something's a special event or not a special event. But that's just one of the things that is listed as an example of something to consider when you're taking into consideration where there's a dispute about whether something's a special event.
So if I'm understanding you right, making profit by itself wouldn't be
No.
an exclusionary factor.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it plus something else would.
Right. The real intent of this,
So
and there,
help me out with
yeah.
the Super Bowl example. If I am hosting a Super Bowl, if I rented a space to host a Super Bowl party,
right.
and I'm charging money to do so.
So if you rent a space and you're hosting a Super Bowl party to the general public, like I just want to open it up to the general public, that traditionally is not a special event that a caterer is hired and a venue is hired and a host is hired to service. That is something that you're doing as part of ordinary business operations. I'm not saying it can never be that, but that's an example of when there is something that needs to be looked at pretty carefully. Things that can reoccur. You know, you can come up with a special event every single day of the year.
Right.
Things that reoccur on a regular basis, as opposed to the 100th birthday or a honeymoon party or.
So not the Super Bowl, but a Hawks basketball game.
Yeah, that's a good example. Or having a Hawks
there's a fictitious application for
Right.
a Hawks basketball
right.
game special permit.
That's right. And the intent of it, obviously, is to get around just having a regular business alcohol license.
Subjectively, that's what
Yeah.
you think I'm doing. I think I'm doing something else.
Sure, and then you have an appeal right if there's a dispute.
How do I appeal?
Either the mayor can waive or the county manager, but the appeal for a denial goes to the mayor. Just like now, it would go to the sheriff.
Yeah, so not to prolong this, I'm voting no.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, we have, Commissioner Bronson, do you have something to answer?
So I had want to kind of get an idea. You kind of gave the example already. On a second note of that, does it have to go through the mayor's office, or can it be deemed to the city manager, and that way we avoid any conflict?
I don't know of any conflicts. I mean, I get elected by the entire community.
No, I mean, like, as far as for the improving part of it, that way it kind of keeps us out of the realm of, well, this person may disagree, which is why they did X, Y, Z, and so forth.
Well, I'm still held to the same standard of providing calls. I mean, I'm always held to that standard. You can't just do everything. That's what they have courts for, why we have these things we have now. It's no different than somebody wanting to have a party on 3rd Street Park. It only comes in my desk, and I can say yes or no, put approve or disapprove on there.
Roger.
Every mayor before me has done the same thing. It's nothing specific to me.
The mayor is constrained, and so is the county manager. If you look at 4-219, that there's a good cause provision that says the mayor shall have the authority to waive any requirement where good cause is shown. So none of these standards, and are going to be completely subjective. And somebody can, if they are, somebody can challenge it, just like any other licensing provision we have, including stuff in the code right now. But good cause is required it constrains his judgment.
Roger. And not to prolong this whole deal, right? Just to give a quick example. So if I'm a business owner
Yeah.
and my business is setting up special evenings for couples, and I say, hey, I'm gonna rent out the park, and it's just gonna be 2 people there. I'll provide alcohol or a beverage of some sort, some roses and candies and food, and it's just those 2 person there. Is that considered a specialized event, and do I need to go through that process to do so?
Well, if you go to number 2, if your ordinary business model, looking at number 2, for purposes of this provision, a special event for which a permit may be granted could include things that are intermittent or for a special purpose that is not regularly reoccurring and is separate and apart from the general operations of any business.
Okay.
The intent of this is that if your ordinary business operations is a reoccurring event every day for 2 different people, for example, to use your example, you need to get a liquor license. I mean, there's a licensing provision because that is your business.
Okay.
And if it's over and over and over again with 2 different people every single night, then that is a reoccurring part of your business operation.
If I decided not to have the alcohol and they bring your own
That's a different
animal.
This only deals with catering of alcoholic beverages.
If it's on public property, as I know that you're referring to, that's a whole different game.
Yeah, right, that's a different.
Okay.
Right.
You can't set up a balloon and have 2 people sitting in there and host your own party and charge for it at Tatnall Square Park.
Okay.
Right, that can't happen. So, and that's why we sent the letter to that person that you may know very well, that you can't do that.
Gotcha.
Yep. All right, so we do have item F on the agenda. Got a motion second yet? Okay. I entertain a motion to approve. It takes effect upon the signing of the mayor.
How does that impact any pending thing?
It doesn't affect anything that's already pending. There are several special permits out there that now will continue if they have a license already. And there are several. If we pass it today, yeah, that's correct. If they've already applied for the permit and been granted, they'll be done, but they have a 30-day provision on a special event, yes, sir.
You already have a license to do what you were doing.
Yes, sir. That's correct. We'll honor all those that have already been approved by the tax commissioner. Got a motion second? Okay. This time we make a motion to approve. Can I get somebody to make a motion? Motion by Commissioner Jones. We have a second. Second by Commissioner Wynn. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion passes 5-4. Going to move on to item O, and I'd ask, I'm sorry, my bad, Commissioner. I was not trying to call out my friend, Mr. Tillman, but I'm glad y'all did. We're going to go ahead and call Mr. Alex Morrison here for Urban Development Authority. He's going to talk about item O. Item O is a resolution to authorize the mayor to enter into an intergovernmental contract with Macon-Bibb County Urban Development Authority to provide for the issuance of bonds, the acquisition of a parking garage, and the making of certain payments concerning the bonds, and to enter into a pilot agreement with Macon-Bibb County Urban Development Authority, Central City Commons, GP LLC, and its affiliates, the Bibb County School District, the Macon-Bibb County Board of Tax Assessors, et cetera, and regarding the property on Poplar Street, and we're now referring to a different name. So if you don't mind identifying yourself and your job title tonight, and then we'll hear from you, sir.
Yes, my name is Alex Morrison. My job title tonight is Executive Director of the Macon-Bibb County Urban Development Authority. And I believe we're going to pull up a rendering of the project in question, but the Urban Development Authority has been negotiating actually for about 8 years now with a development along Poplar Street, which would bring a signature hotel to the streetscape, as well as about 232, but specifically 232 apartment units to 2nd Street as part of a long-term development that has been contemplated by local developers who've now brought in a partner to see this development through. The Urban Development Authority has negotiated with Central City Commons General Partners, which is a group comprised of Optera Development and then our local friends, Tim Thornton and Miller Heath, who have contributed the property to the project for a bond to be issued to purchase a parking deck to support this development. The total amount of that bond would be $18.5 million, which would support the construction of and design of that deck and allow the Urban Development Authority to purchase it once it's completed by the developer. The ask here is for the Macon-Bibb County government to allow us to issue the bond and to pledge a municipal guarantee to cover any shortage in the debt service payments that come from the developers. Those developers are simultaneously entering into what we call a pilot agreement, a payment in lieu of taxes agreement, where they are pledging to make contractually obligated payments to go towards the debt service of those bonds. So they alone will be pledging to pay the corpus of those bonds for the most part, as well as pledging a parking lease for those parking spaces, so that they will be carrying the burden of paying for that parking deck, so that that is not held on the rest of the taxpayers in Macon-Bibb County. So that's the broad strokes of the project. We think that this is going to be a significant development that supports pretty much every plan that has been made for downtown Macon for the last 40 years, including adding more hotel rooms and residential projects, adding a significant number of jobs and new investment to downtown Macon, raising the overall tax base, tax digest for downtown Macon, and something that is a particular concern, adding new parking spaces into the urban core, something has been asked for repeatedly over the last decade. So, Mr. Mayor, that's the project.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Commissioners, you've heard the presentation by Mr. Morrison, and we'll take questions at this time. Commissioner Watkins?
And for some reason, I didn't write it down. Like you said, I think the loan amount or the bond amount is for $18 million. And in the case of worst possible scenario, I guess default from the private people, the government's exposure would be what annually?
So the ultimate, the annual debt service is not, I couldn't give you a precise number until we issue the bonds, come up with an interest rate and everything else, what that would be. But we have underwritten it to be just around $900,000 annually for that debt service payment. So the developer is pledging a guarantee to pay almost all of that over the entire 30-year life of the bond.
So $18 million over 30 years, roughly $900,000 a year. Yeah. But right now, it's the developer is paying, it seems like nearly 100% of that.
Correct. We've had a third-party analysis to look at it, and our debt coverage ratio just from the developer sources is over 1 over the life of the project in current market conditions.
Thank you.
Mr. Howell?
I think I'm following the logic here. We do a bond. They use that money to build the parking deck. Then we turn around and buy the parking deck from the developer.
So in the way this actually will work is they go and they build the parking deck and we purchase it from them. We're not loaning them the money to build the parking deck. We're purchasing it from them once completed, which saves significant money for Macon-Bibb County partners in the project so that we're not designing, procuring, and going through a lengthy process for procuring that deck. It's being built privately, will be completely inspected and then we will purchase a completed project, which saves us a lot of money in interest carrying costs and design fees.
Well, I get that, I understand that part, but if they decide they want $30 million for the parking deck, I mean, that's where the rub is. Is there some kind of agreement there that?
Yes, sir. So we have a development agreement with the partners, and that purchase price is baked into that development agreement and these bond documents and intergovernmental contract that you're approving.
That was the answer I was looking for.
Thank you, Commissioner Howell. Further questions from commissioners? Hearing none, we get a motion to approve? I'm sorry. See you later on, Mr. Commissioner.
Originally, we were supposed to do some sewage, stormwater, something in this area here. Is that still a part of this? Remember, we were going to do a lot of infrastructure.
That's another piece of this. Us purchasing the deck instead of constructing it ourselves means that will have to be taken care of as part of the development for the developer, and that's contemplated in their plans.
So the developer does?
Yeah, they're no longer asking Bibb County to contribute the money to do that.
Right, because that was several $1 million that we were gonna, when you mentioned the third-party review, you had a third party, was this the person from Atlanta who usually reviews the bond packages?
While we did have Matthew Arrington also review it, we used a separate third party, Davenport and Associates. So we had double review from the Macon-Bibb County's municipal advisor and a complete third party who's not involved in the project in any way.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Wynn?
What's the anticipated date of start and how long will it take once it's started?
So we imagine it'll be about a 20-month construction process, and if we approve this today, move forward, get all the necessary approvals that follow, they anticipate breaking ground in January.
Okay. I've seen the plans for this from before, and it's a wonderful project, so sure hope, got my fingers crossed that Macon will be able to support this.
I have one more.
Commissioner Lucas?
I know that what is your total bonding capacity? What?
For the Urban Development Authority.
Urban Development Authority.
We independently of Macon-Bibb County, we have no real bonding capacity. So that's, unless it's a completely private project, this is one that would be guaranteed by Macon-Bibb County. For economic development projects, you can go up to 1 mil of bonding capacity, and then I'd have to ask Christy what your total coverage would be. I don't have that number. Christy Alucci.
Okay, you're saying you don't know what the total amount?
I do not know what the total bonding capacity of Macon-Bibb County would be off the top of my head. No.
Urban Development Authority.
So
you have a certain amount of money of bonds that you can utilize. So what is that total amount, and how close are you to that?
Right. The Urban Development Authority we don't have an independent capacity, like a bond capacity. We can only approve and issue bonds so far as they are approved by this commission.
They don't have any independent, Commissioner Lucas. It's relying totally on the capacity, what Macon-Bibb County may have, and I think what he was saying is Christy Alucci would have to give you that particular number with all the bonds that we have pending right now after this particular action to let you know what the additional bonding capacity that we do have.
Okay, well, if you don't know, then how do you know you can do 18?
So that was part of the analysis that Matthew Arrington did to make sure that all of this was compliant with the financial projections for Macon-Bibb County.
Okay, I had one or two other questions. I'll hold those. Thank you.
Commissioner. Mr. Watkins, you still have something, sir?
Yeah, and it's right down the same alley that Commissioner Lucas is on. Some time ago, we were trying to figure out how to bond some money for blight removal residential property removal. And one of the answers or limits that we ran up against was a comment that we were close to the bond capacity and such a project would be problematic because of that. So it made it seem as though there was a line and we had some ability, but we would cross it. So where does this put us at 95% full, 99% full? And what would be our ability to accept other projects after this, I think is what we're curious on, because this is a worthwhile project, we like it, but if it's also absorbing 100% of the funds available, we might want to talk a little bit more.
Yeah, it's certainly not, the 18.5 is probably only 1/5 of the amount that we have in total bonding capacity. But, you know, when you get close to those numbers that you're talking about, it does affect your bond rating and things of that nature. I don't want to get off point here, but the particular issue you were talking about on the Blight project was not necessarily run into a capacity issue, is run into a funding stream, because every time we do these bonds, we always look for a mechanism to pay these things back. But anyway, I think there's Ms. Lucia can get you the information on just the number of what we have in bonding capacity left.
But I would get that information after I vote for it, and if I did put us up to 99.5, it would be too late to rescind. I just love our system here for that reason.
Well, thank you, sir. But we, I can tell you, stating my place, that we have sufficient, otherwise we wouldn't be asking you to do this. Otherwise, Matthew Arrington, who you've approved the hire and use of him since you've been here, would not have advised us to move forward with this project. So any further questions from this commission? Hearing no questions, we'll take a vote on this. All those in favor of the motion, need a motion to approve? Okay, motion by Mayor Pro Tem Clark, second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. This motion carries. Thank you very much. That concludes our agenda items. We do have two folks that have been waiting patiently to speak tonight. First, I'd like to call up Ms. Cleopatra Simpson. Ms. Simpson, thank you for being here tonight and being patient with us. And I think you want to talk about neighborhood safety.
Mayor, Commissioner Macon-Bibb, for 6 months or more, me and others have called concerning stray dogs in our neighborhood. The situation is so bad that even people who visit the neighborhood have called. Nothing has happened. We even resorted to calling the police directly. Nothing has happened. Animal control number says to text. When you call, you text, nothing happened. Well, yesterday I ended up in the hospital. I got a busted elbow, messed up hip, other issues, radiating pain, because I was accosted by 4 dogs. 3 were non-aggressive, 1 was aggressive. Now, Macon-Bibb, Georgia negligence has caused me to be traumatized. I was scared to even go to my mailbox today. I didn't even walk this morning. Macon-Bibb, Georgia negligence has caused me to need physical therapy, and I'm sure I'm going to need mental therapy, because every time I close my eyes, I see that big black dog coming over me. I fell. That dog circled me and moved in to make his move. And every time I close, even just saying it now, I see that big dog coming at me. So Macon-Bibb, Georgia negligence has caused me to be traumatized, not just physically. Macon-Bibb, Georgia negligence has caused me to need assistance just to be ambulatory. I can't even do my Cleopatra strut no more, because now I got to walk on a stick because of Macon-Bibb, Georgia negligence. Listen, as a citizen, and I'm speaking on behalf of me and other citizens I've talked to, and I'm sorry for moving around, but I'm trying to keep from putting too much pressure on my leg. As citizens, we have a right. As a human, we have a right, whether I'm a citizen or not. If I'm in this city, I have a right to feel safe, at least in my own neighborhood. I shouldn't have to keep calling and nothing happens. And then all of a sudden, people end up like me. And I'm going to tell you something. If I do something like I'm trying to be careful how I choose my words. You're a lawyer, you know I got to be careful here. If I use my authorized carry and take care of that dog, I'm going to be in an orange jumpsuit, stand in front of a judge, explain to that dog why I was doing animal cruelty because of Macon-Bibb, Georgia negligence. I'm asking you to get somebody, if you will. Well, not just all over the city, but I'm speaking right now for me. I'm the one standing here on this stick. Get somebody out there to do something And not only that, when you call the police, my goodness. And because I'm gonna just say this, and with this I'm gonna be through. I'm a law-abiding citizen. You can't find nothing on me. Well, that don't mean I ain't done nothing, you just didn't catch me. But anyway, that's another story. That's another story. But I'm gonna just tell you this. I'm prepared to protect myself by any means necessary. Mayor, Commissioner, Macon-Bibb, I'm Cleopatra, and I'm an angry black woman. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Ms. Simpson. Thank you for being here tonight. You don't mind if I share your number with the sheriff, right?
No, I don't mind at
Okay.
all.
He's in charge of animal control, and I'm not sure if he's still watching this event, but I'll let him know, given your number that you gave us.
Would you please?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Mr. Wade Horton, thank you for being here tonight, sir, and we'll hear from you. You had a Macon-Bibb County Transit update.
Well, actually, I had signed up to speak about the special event,
Okay.
but, so can I?
You can speak on whatever you want to, sir. You got 5 minutes.
I'm saying I signed up to speak on an agenda item,
Yeah, you can speak on whatever you want to now.
and then I can speak on the non-agenda item.
You got 5 minutes. You can speak on whatever you want to speak on.
Okay, let me get this clarification.
You tell me you want to speak 10 minutes?
No, what I'm asking, in the past, you could speak on a agenda item prior to, and then you can speak on a non-agenda item at the end. Has that changed?
No, sir, you got it written in the same ones, and we took it as a non-agenda item. So you got 5 minutes, or if you want to take longer, I'll give you longer, since you got 2 items you want to speak about.
One more, okay. I'm just gonna briefly speak on this special event. Listening at what happened during this commission, it seems like people who are abiding by are being punished for people who probably are not abiding by the rules. And I would like for you guys, even though you voted, to go back and visit this immediately, Mayor, before you sign it, because my experience in law enforcement, I noticed that there were a time when they raised bail fees for people who were trying to get out of jail. And you have repeat offenders that come back and forth. And then you have those who you know made a mistake and they're not coming back. We had difficulty getting those people out of jail because they could not afford the fees. And I think this right here is something similar. You got people who are being punished because there are some people who may not follow the rules and regulations as they should. And I just believe that there are some innovative ways to make people follow the rules, or just don't give them the license to do it if they are violating, but do not punish the ones who are trying to abide by your rules. And I'm sure a lot of businesses probably got their first start with people saying, okay, they hold very good events, and that reputation alone helped them to spur the business that are downtown in Macon right now. I heard Mr. Tillman say that how the nightlife in Macon has really improved, and people all around us talking about how good it is. I don't want that to stop. I don't want that to be the thing that kills it, and then y'all are revisiting this, trying to figure out ways to get Newtown Macon to put some money downtown to attract more businesses again, because now we're going against what you already did. That's what I want to talk about on that one. Now, on the Transit Authority update, I was at the last meeting at the end of July, and they talked about the purchasing of 3 new buses, which is a good thing. But the problem that I saw in it is that they had to do a phone call approval so that the CEO could sign a check for the $900,000+. And then they formally voted for it during the meeting. Now, there is something inherently wrong in my eyes with that, because it's not like you're ordering anything. You have buses that you're ordering. Why is there a need to wait to the last minute to sign a check to give the CEO authority to sign a check for $900,000? Second thing that struck me is the only reason they needed to do that is because the CEO is allowed to sign a check for $250,000 without any signature. Now, Mr. Mayor, I don't even think you have the authority to write a check for $250,000. But now at the next Transit Authority meeting, there's going to be some legislation drawn up that would alleviate this problem from ever happening again. What I mean by that is the CEO will have the authority to write a check without approval or without another signature. He will be approved to write a check for the amount. Is that for my first 5 minutes?
I'll give you about 3 more minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, like I said, there is something inherently wrong with one person having the authority to spend our money the way they want to without a second signature. Now, this is the CEO. What is the job of the CFO? I haven't heard from the CFO on any of these issues involving any of the money, even when it came to increasing bus fares. I never heard of anyone representing the transit as the CFO. I know Danny Thompson was the CFO about 3 years ago prior to COVID, and he retired. But we don't have anyone doing that now. And I would think that at least your CFO would be the one signing checks. Now, if you're ordering buses that we really do need, why is there such a rush to sign a check? Why are you missing a deadline? We've been dealing with different CEOs in the city of Macon Transit Authority. This has never been an issue. We have never had a CEO to be able to write a check for $250,000 without a signature. This is unacceptable, and it really should give each of us room for pause, because who would want to have that kind of authority with other folks' money? We need to do better. And next week, I'm going to talk about an issue that is also come up with banks. Transit Authority has changed banks, and we have had no other banks bidding for that service, but they have just changed the bank. I'll talk about that next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. Commissioners, we've had a very fruitful meeting tonight, and we will likely not meet next Tuesday unless something changes, but we do have a commission meeting on the 15th. We did receive the digest from the tax commissioner information today, so we will be prepared to send you some information regarding the millage rate on the 15th. We must advertise that next week, so we'll be doing that. But until further business brings us here again, everyone have a safe trip home, and this meeting is hereby adjourned.